From a chasm in the earth, a gate gave way to a dungeon teeming with perilous life forms, a hunting ground reserved for a select few. These individuals, known as hunters, were gifted with truly exceptional powers. The sole path to joining their ranks involves surmounting the trial within a cryptic spire. One's strength escalates in tandem with their ascent up the structure, granting access to novel capabilities and proficiencies. Every potential candidate, before their powers manifest, is cast into this tower from which there is no escape. Yet, a great many fail to conquer even the inaugural stage of this formidable challenge. A new rank is nonetheless conferred for every 10 floors cleared out of the 100 that exist. The protagonist successfully ascended to the 100th level and made an unceasing effort to surpass it. Prior to this, he lived the life of a common porter, hauling gear for more distinguished individuals. His ambition was ignited by Reuben, a hunter of the S rank who had managed to climb to the 61st floor. The young aspirant held a deep-seated desire to master the tower and thus permanently alter his destiny. He was plagued by memories of the world that had claimed the lives of his friends and parents. A youth for whom the hero was contracted to carry equipment interrupted his reverie. They journeyed together toward the threshold of a newly appeared dungeon, preparing for a raid. The group coerced him into leading the way before violently thrusting him across the magical threshold. With the traps activated behind him, he found himself isolated inside, facing a menacing pack of hounds engineered to shred their quarry. His betrayers, in the meantime, initiated a live broadcast, encouraging onlookers to wager on the outcome. This was the arena for dogfights, a brutal spectacle pitting living beings against monstrous adversaries. The hero mounted a desperate defense, but the creatures swiftly closed in, cutting off all escape. As a final measure, he blew a whistle he carried, his last remaining option. This action, however, only served to further infuriate the monsters, escalating their aggression. At that point, his framers charged in, attempting to intervene in the proceedings. The beasts shifted their focus to the newcomers and dismembered them in an instant. Having spent every last bit of energy in his struggle, the hero was teetering on the brink of death. In that critical instant, the system issued a summons to the tower, offering a chance at a new beginning when all hope seemed gone. As lucidity returned, the full sequence of events leading to his current state came rushing back to him. His mind cleared, leaving no doubt that he was now located within the confines of the tower. Within this domain, possessing coins could mean that even death is not an absolute conclusion. In that very manner, life was restored to him, presenting a fresh opportunity. A look at the status interface provided the final proof that his circumstances were not an illusion. He had dedicated years to amassing knowledge and pushing his body through grueling training for this exact purpose. The moment for which he had waited with more anticipation than any other had finally arrived. Stepping through a portal of pure mana, he emerged onto a vibrant green field. A lone goblin stood in the center of the meadow, representing the initial trial of this floor. Aware that he faced this battle by himself, he acted decisively and dispatched the creature. A system notification promptly declared the completion of the first floor's challenge. Unforeseen, however, a second foe leaped from the darkness and delivered a mortal wound. His demise was immediate, yet this time it did not signify the end. He understood the state was circulating misinformation, which only hardened his resolve to reach the summit. Finding himself resurrected in the identical clearing, he chose a more patient approach. 3 hours elapsed in complete stillness before the first monster made its appearance. Rather than engaging immediately, he elected to observe the situation from a safe distance. The goblin moved with great care, which then allowed him to notice a second one positioned not far away. The pair were stationed near a peculiar stone figurine. He surmised that the object could be a concealed artifact specific to this level. Wasting no more time, he launched himself at the monsters, eliminating them both with swift attacks. Once he confirmed the area was secure, he retrieved the statuette. The moment it made contact with his skin, it started to gently dematerialize, followed by a new system message. The Lunatus statue was now his. It was the first instance he had been fortunate enough to discover an item of this nature. The object was unlocking a special quest, one hidden from the majority of participants. His journey now included this task, following the artifact's activation. He subsequently acquired a singular skill, eyes that look at the stars. This was an ability of the highest caliber, capable of commanding respect from even the most hardened hunters. It granted the user vision of hidden information, subtle hints, and even the rewards that lay ahead. The acquisition left him astounded, as such an occurrence was exceptionally uncommon. On the third floor, the protagonist was confronted by a kobold brandishing a crossbow. Though injured in the encounter, he recovered quickly by consuming a healing potion. He located a tree nearby whose sap could mask his scent from the creature's senses. After coating his body, he concealed himself silently within the foliage. As the monster drew near, the hero launched a surprise assault and landed a killing strike. A system prompt recommended extracting a nail from the creature's ring finger for a stroke of luck. He collected his prize and proceeded onward, stepping into the interfloor portal. Sustenance, a place for rest, and entry into the internal community were available to him there. This took the form of a chat room where challengers could discuss their shared experiences. A majority of users there, however, refuted the presence of a second goblin on the initial floor. He then registered with the comical handle, Classy Plinces. He communicated in a cryptic fashion, careful not to reveal his identity and avoid unwanted notice. In spite of his caution, he was met with several messages that corroborated his claims. This experience solidified his determination to disclose only factual information about the tower. Confident in his course, he advanced to the subsequent level. The new area was thoroughly booby-trapped, with snares materializing from nothing. He narrowly avoided death when a mechanism abruptly triggered from beneath his feet. Heeding advice he found online, he extended his hands forward as a precaution. Yet after nearly having his hands maimed, he employed his special eyes to discern the layout of the traps. He could now navigate the hazardous path without making a single misstep. The challenges comprised elaborate snares, including a fiery spectacle and blades that shot up from the ground. His ocular ability, however, allowed the hero to traverse the entire course without receiving so much as a scratch. Following the taxing journey, he opted to take a break and eat. A glance at his performance metrics brought an undeniable smile to his face. The progress was satisfying. Concurrently, on the tower's 30th floor, Guild Manager Spencer was meticulously tracking the guild's coin reserves. When his younger brother stormed in, he presented new posts from the community that were causing a significant commotion. Spencer became enraged upon reading the message and demanded that the author be located immediately. At that very instant, the protagonist earned a new designation, the title of Conqueror. This new status conferred a bonus of 10 points to every one of his fundamental attributes. He revisited the chat to see the reactions to his post. Genuine expressions of gratitude, encouragement, and even awe could be found among the replies. Negativity was present as well, with some users dismissing his account and branding him a fraud. He nevertheless held fast to his principles and continued his ascent. He ultimately uncovered 3 artifacts, with each one bestowing a distinct and unique skill. A fresh challenge awaited him on the 4th floor, scaling a towering cliff face. His special vision highlighted a dark blue tree, prompting him to uproot it entirely, which he promptly did. Elated by surmounting another challenge, he accidentally dropped a stone he had found, one bearing an engraved name. His eyes informed him it was the signature of John, a sage who had climbed to the 92nd floor. This individual was famed for having engineered a genuine homunculus. The hero was left to contemplate the immense age of the tower itself. Lost in these reflections, he arrived at the 5th floor, where a fish warrior boss, specifically calibrated to his current power level, was waiting. The hero formulated a plan to utilize the skill boxes concealed somewhere on the level. Engaging his ocular ability, he sprinted to the initial pair of boxes and swiftly absorbed their power. With the basic skills now integrated, he was already making his way toward the next container. The enemy, however, closed the distance unexpectedly and seized him in a powerful grip. The boy acted instantly, plunging his knife directly into the monster's flesh. After he fell, he successfully activated the 3rd skill container. The fish warrior countered with an attack that sent the hero crashing into a cliffside. Shrapnel flew in every direction, but their resolve remained unshaken. After recovering, he deployed a firebomb, which incinerated the foe. Once the conflagration subsided, his victory in the battle was certain. For good measure, he obliterated the creature's remnants before the system officially registered his triumph. A diminutive creature, resembling a frog but pulsing with an odd energy, landed on his head. His special eyes instantly identified it as a being of chaos that held immense potential. A system warning appeared, indicating that this entity was more powerful than the victor himself. The message specified that a bond must be forged between them, warning of perilous outcomes should she reject him as her master. Undeterred by the risk, the hero welcomed her as a companion and proceeded forward, thus concluding the training phase. The 6th floor and an array of new trials awaited him. He emerged in a designated safe area where aggression against others was expressly forbidden. The young man gave his frog the name Rick, a choice the creature seemed to dislike. Shortly after, he met a man offering a white pellet purported to have curative effects. His special eyes, however, detected a hidden enchantment, a spell designed to tamper with and partially alter memories. Left with no other apparent option, the hero consented to accept the pellet. Their conversation was cut short by the arrival of another challenger. In that moment, Rick snatched the pellet and consumed it, while the main character merely feigned eating his and departed. Upon reaching a guest house, he resolved to compose another message regarding the pellet and the floor's secrets. Following that, he consulted a guidebook to continue investigating his newfound abilities. Access to the tower's internal auction house soon became available. The selection was vast, but his special eyes were drawn to the yellow torso piece of Feline's armor. While the cost was questionable, his skill validated its value. It was a component of a legendary ensemble. The entire set once belonged to an individual who had reached the 99th floor. Assembling all the pieces would grant the power of that ancient warrior. The young man dedicated an hour to searching for the other equipment pieces. When his search proved fruitless, he opted to buy a sword, a helmet, and several practical potions. The system tallied 500 points and initiated the modification sequence immediately. His personal stats saw a dramatic increase, and a previously unknown ability was unlocked. All the artifacts he had gathered previously merged together, forming a top-tier container. From it emerged an S-class skill named Skill Combination, a development that was both a massive breakthrough and a source of great celebration. A notification materialized on his screen showing a count of 3 coins. In a flash, however, that number transformed into an infinity symbol. He understood that he now possessed the means to reach the very top, but only 2 exit strategies from the tower existed. The first option involved conquering it in its entirety, while the second required expending every last coin. The choice was clear, considering the boon he had just been granted. He came to the sobering realization that clearing 100 levels might consume the better part of a decade. This thought was deeply disheartening, yet halting his progress was not a viable option. In the main square outside, meanwhile, a rigorous inspection of every person emerging from the portal was underway. These measures were put in place by Adam, the floor manager, who bore the mark of a killer and was searching for a specific individual. The young man responsible for the inflammatory reports, including the 4th one that had sparked such rage, was brought before him. The manager, consumed by fury, physically assaulted his subordinate under suspicion of treachery. His suspicions centered on the person who had been posting the frank truth within the community forum. He subsequently issued a command to seal every portal on the current floor. His objective was to locate the individual capable of subverting the system. During this time, the traveler, having just completed his meal, overheard a discussion at a nearby table. The men were talking about the peculiar new restrictions and the abrupt sealing of the passageways. He then proceeded to the outskirts of the area to verify what he had heard. Initially, he opted to simply observe, until he became the witness to a massive explosion. On the opposite side of the level, panic and fury seized the crowd as people began to resist and demand answers. This continued until Adam's arrival caused everyone to instinctively retreat, but a flash of light drew his attention toward the explosion's epicenter. There he encountered the protagonist, who had been observing the unfolding drama and immediately prepared for a fight. A notification appeared on the screen. Upon winning, Elian would claim his opponent's skill as a reward. His adversary was skilled in kicking arts, punching techniques, and one other unidentified ability. He launched a signal flare high into the air, summoning reinforcements from his guild. A fierce battle erupted between them, with each combatant unleashing their unique skills. It was later revealed that the opponent's 3rd skill was a shield that had been downgraded in rank. The defensive barrier failed to absorb the impact and shattered under the power of a firebomb. The leader then activated a brooch and a bracelet, which provided a temporary boost to his stats. This enhancement was set to last for 10 minutes, making the confrontation significantly more perilous. The enemy mounted a renewed assault with his augmented power, but the attack did not unfold as he had intended. The main character had discreetly slipped Rick beneath his armor, and while pressed against Adam, triggered another firebomb. Shielded by the armor, Rick began to administer healing from within as the explosion raged around them. The synergy between the fiery blast and the restorative support proved to be the winning factor. Following his victory, he acquired a new ability and a skill book, in addition to claiming all the artifacts from his fallen foe. He moved on without pause, ascending to the tower's 7th level. On the new floor, his pet administered aid to the traveler, earning a serving of its preferred food in return. During this time, Jim regained consciousness and came to terms with his loss. His second-in-command approached him, at which point the senior member chose to step down from his role. The leadership position was transferred to Sean, who was appointed the new floor manager. The hero, meanwhile, undertook a mission to eradicate a contingent of goblins. After he had slain a dozen, a portal materialized, but he elected not to pass through it. Recognizing that this floor served as a training ground, he chose to prolong the combat. Once his tally of defeated enemies surpassed 40, the system presented him with a reward. The gift was a special pill designed to enhance hunting prowess. Upon its consumption, all of his parameters rose substantially. When the number of dispatch foes reached 125, the system announced that the growth limit was met and that the goblin boss had appeared. The details of this new task were obscured, with even his special skill unable to penetrate the veil. The hero began a process of elimination, mentally discarding potential bosses that did not fit the profile. His options dwindled one by one until only the final goblin, adorned with jewels, was left. After some time passed, the boss, who was concealed in a cave, detected the scent of treasure. It was unable to control its avarice and darted toward the source of the gleam. A golden frog statue was waiting for him there, but it was not treasure, it was Rick in a new form. As the goblin neared the treasure, its power surged, and it advanced to its third level of strength. The hero activated a firebomb without delay, and the frog shed its disguise. When the two of them were both on the ground, the enemy's sudden power boost vanished. The traveler capitalized on this opportunity and handily overcame his adversary. A bag capable of holding an infinite variety of items was among the spoils. Reaching inside, the boy withdrew improvement cubes, a soul stone, and a fragment of the key to the Halton ruins, which immediately captured his interest. One could unlock the treasure vault by gathering all the separate pieces. After the battle, he chose to rest and review the feedback from the association. The user comments verified the claims made about the white pellet. One individual had even conducted an independent investigation, complete with evidence. The traveler authored a new post before continuing his journey. A confrontation with orcs awaited him on the 8th floor. He dispatched them without taking any damage, but a different adversary then emerged. A combatant known as Kinatak, who wielded a gauntlet, issued a challenge. Before he had a chance to respond, the hero got a system notification that the duel had been automatically accepted, initiating the fight. As his opponent boasted about his physique, the hero wasted no time and launched an attack. He annihilated his foe with a single immense blow, and in doing so, he saw a medal that could be acquired by meeting specific criteria. Specifically, the task required the defeat of numerous orcs and their commanders. Immediately afterward, they started to materialize and toss gauntlets toward the hero. He employed his threat-generating skill and eliminated several of the challengers. His strength had been augmented by new enhancement cubes, allowing him to dispatch everyone with ease. Subsequently, the leader emerged, whom the hero presumed to be asleep. He activated a firebomb and struck the chair, yet the enemy remained motionless. The leader awoke and started performing squats, clarifying that he had not been sleeping. He had a passion for working out and was irritated that his session had been cut short. A confrontation ensued between them, leaving the hero with no choice but to evade the incoming strikes. The hero's initial landed blow validated his eye's insight that a near-fatal injury enhances the target's powers. Consequently, the hero began to fall back, but the leader pursued and closed the distance. At the very last second, he utilized a deceptive curtain ability, concealing himself around a corner. His special vision indicated that the weak point of this particular foe was its back. Rick served as a reminder of the potential to combine abilities, and the hero proceeded to activate this function. The leader located the hero and delivered a powerful blow, making it seem as though the hero had perished. The system, however, declared a successful fusion of abilities into a single skill that permitted rapid movement. The hero was now capable of instantly appearing behind the leader to drive his sword into the creature's back. He then triggered a firebomb, unleashing a cataclysmic attack that annihilated his foe. Vanquishing the leader brought the main character an immense sense of accomplishment. Upon his return to the arena, he claimed his prize, the second segment of the key to the ruins. He immediately joined it with the first piece after acquiring a clot from the leader, which contained the power of an orc. After a moment of contemplation, the hero consumed the clot, thereby assimilating the leader's strength and receiving enhanced stats. The odor was unbearable for Rick, prompting the hero to go take a shower. Once clean, he inspected an alarm he had previously set and kindled a fire within a pre-dug pit. They then settled down for a meal, during which the hero read articles and posted his own updates. It was through this that he discovered Jim had stepped down from his role and ascended to the upper floors. Jim, in the meantime, had vanquished 100 orcs on the 7th floor and acquired a starter kit. After grasping that everything Elian had written was factual, Jim conveyed this information to Spencer. He then began to prepare for his next confrontation, fully committed to seeing his journey through to the end. After finishing off the orcs, the protagonist reviewed all his essential artifacts and proceeded to the 9th floor. He took a step forward, pushed some foliage aside, and was startled to find a wolf's horn mere millimeters from his eye. Elian reacted in an instant, seizing the wolf and destroying it, only to be ambushed by the entire pack a moment later. He battled against them, taking down 30 wolves while pondering the quickest way to reach the 10th floor. From there, he would be able to publish an article detailing the 8th floor without giving away his position to the guilds. His train of thought was abruptly cut off by a system notification as darkness consumed his surroundings. The system announced the arrival of Dalkin, and the protagonist activated a luminescent stone to cast light on the area. He suddenly sensed something moving past him at great speed. Gripped by fear, he could only speculate on what the entity might be. When the monster manifested behind him, Elian's attack passed through it harmlessly. It simply phased through the hero, inflicting no pain whatsoever. A system message then clarified that these were obtectors, spectral beings that siphon a portion of one's abilities and strength. The main character had no alternative but to flee as the obtectors relentlessly attacked, draining his magical reserves. They eventually cornered Rick, who managed to destroy several of them with a blast of acid. The hero used the key, which held a fragment of sacred power, and succeeded in vanquishing several obtectors. After a period of struggle, the obtectors were eliminated, and the night finally gave way to dawn. A horned wolf suddenly materialized before him, which he initially embraced before strangling it. He resumed the fight, eliminating another 30 adversaries just as night began to descend again. The main character, however, was prepared for this eventuality. Using artifacts he had previously crafted, he fashioned weapons from sacred power and began to annihilate the obtectors. Their numbers dwindled with every strike he landed until he had defeated a total of 100. He crouched down, started a fire, and accessed the association's forum to review the latest comments. Upon reading the feedback, he resolved to compose a new article. At that moment, he got a friend request from an unknown user named Todd. The protagonist identified this new contact as one of the commentators who had been supportive of his posts. After checking the review, he saw his status had improved, granting him a new statistic: luck. Placing his faith in this new attribute, he accepted the request, and Todd began to recount his story. It was revealed that Todd's deceased brother had been a novelist within the Garand Guild. Novelesses are individuals specially cultivated by guilds to serve as their primary combatants. Garand stood as the most prominent guild, widely recognized for its power and influence. Todd revealed a strategy for reaching the 13th floor, which his brother had previously detailed in posts. To prove the authenticity of his information, Todd sent an artifact as evidence. The hero devised a plan to mislead the guilds by publishing a post containing false information about the 13th floor. He then initiated preparations for skill combination by activating a series of skill boxes. The initial skill boxes yielded no results, but his luck stat kicked in, granting him new skills. Monoblast and Love Shot were the new abilities he acquired, and he immediately fused them. He proceeded to eliminate another 30 horned wolves, and then decided to trigger the 7th night by summoning Dalkin. The monster finally manifested after several attempts, and the hero braced himself for a grueling battle. He utilized night vision to accurately aim his firebomb. The blast, however, inflicted no harm on the creature, prompting the hero to try using his power-up cubes. When that also proved ineffective, he commanded Rick to spray acid. The acid produced a noticeable effect, leading the hero to deploy a handcrafted scepter imbued with holy power. The confrontation raged on until Dalkin shattered the scepter's handle and launched an attack. The hero leaped up, swiftly grabbing his companion, who then began to fire acid at their foe. Following this, the hero triggered several of his skills and instantly closed the distance to his opponent. All his activated skills began to function in concert, delivering a barrage of devastating strikes. The hero launched a succession of firebombs until he was compelled to merge all his skills. He subsequently formulated a new powerful attack and used it to destroy his enemy, Dalkin. He then rose, channeling all his remaining energy, and underwent a transformation into a dragon. After tossing his companion aside, he activated a unique explosive whistle and a misty acceleration skill. The hero managed to defeat his opponent despite the immense challenges and then lost consciousness. Upon waking, he found his weakened companion attempting to provide aid. His victory earned him a new prize, the third fragment of the key, which fused with the other two parts. He was also awarded a first scarf and a new title that unlocked additional possibilities. On the 30th floor, Louise and Tom, members of different guilds, received crucial intelligence regarding the hero. They resolved to locate a fan of the hero who went by the alias Bald Head. After arriving on the 10th floor, which was bustling with NPCs, the hero took a few steps forward. An NPC named Lilka suddenly noticed him and presented him with a quest. This particular quest, however, came with a unique condition. It could not be declined. Quests were sorted into three categories: those impossible to finish, those offering no escape, and those with steep penalties. Lilka stated with certainty that the quest was non-negotiable, leaving flight as the sole alternative. She caught up to him with ease, however, prompting the hero to voice his annoyance directly to her. Aware of all the potential consequences, he attempted to refuse what seemed to be a simple material delivery mission. But upon spotting Rick, Lilka offered him a set of incredible S-level artifacts instead. The hero declined the artifacts as well, his intention being to continue nurturing his pet's growth. Lilka eventually chose to depart, leaving him to his own devices. After securing lodging at a guest house, the hero pursued a quest that held greater appeal for him. This was an event hosted at the Kildoris Hall Arena, where hunters battled for an extravagant reward. He donned a mask to conceal his face and approached the owner to register for the event. He found the owner asleep and proceeded to wake him. Kildoris reacted with startling hostility, lunging at the hero without offering any reason. The hero, finding himself in the arena, was initially taken aback by the owner's unprompted aggression. After mistaking the main character for a monster, he attacked, but calmed down upon recognizing his error. He apologized profusely and recommended that the hero register for the competition under the name Demon's Eye. Furthermore, he vowed to increase the prize money for first place, which gave the hero pause. Uncertain of his ability to secure the top spot, he saw an opportunity to leverage the situation. He made a threat to report the incident of an NPC assaulting a person without provocation. The arena owner responded by sealing the space and granting him direct entry into the competition, bypassing the preliminaries. Having accepted the terms, the hero learned that the finals would feature an uneven number of contestants. The one participant left without a match would be declared a victor by default, and he was designated for that role. The hero accepted without hesitation and then made his way to the market to acquire new abilities. He purchased some food and a dagger, then observed a mob beating a thief who had tried to steal artifacts. Manager Ligon, who bore the mark of a murderer, arrived and declared he would handle the matter himself. He issued a duel challenge to the thief, vowing to ignore his thefts if he were to win. The thief offered only apologies but ultimately entered the fight, his opponent's power growing with the crowd's reactions. Ligon grew stronger with every blow, making his victory a foregone conclusion. The hero observed this, thinking that Ligon would be simple to defeat without the interference of onlookers. He continued on his way but paused when he noticed his luck stat reacting to a particular chest. In the potion shop, the proprietor displayed a variety of concoctions, which included poisons. The chest held flawed potions that could prove fatal, but they were exactly what Rick required. The hero purchased the entire stock and placed them in his bag before heading back to his room. He abruptly sensed the salesman trailing him and quickly altered his course. He ascended to a rooftop after overhearing the salesman mention a job for whoever could find a bag of jewels. To get an advantage, the hero decided to act preemptively and hurried to find the manager. While on the roof, he made a mental note to be more cautious and avoid using the bag in public again. It was attracting far too much notice, and he resolved to adopt a more discreet approach. The vendor relayed all the information to the manager, describing the bag and promoting his potions. Ligon deduced that the potions were poison and gave the command to apprehend the vendor. The following day, Rick consumed the poison and as a result developed new abilities. The hero posted a message advising his fans against attempting to poison guild members. After this, they departed to finish Lilka's quest before the start of the competition. In the main square, the hero caught wind of rumors about the banishment of a merchant who had attempted to assassinate Ligon. He went to the location and witnessed the manager repeatedly killing the vendor. This cycle of execution continued until the vendor's chances to remain in the tower were exhausted. Having reached the 11th floor, the hero began to work on the quest. As he slayed monsters, he gathered materials until he discovered a skill book that conferred fire resistance. A monster was protecting this artifact, and upon its defeat, the hero also acquired poison resistance. He immediately learned these new skills and continued on his way. He looked over comments from his friends who had already set up a competition and decided to devise a prize for the victor. Upon reaching the 12th floor, the hero swiftly eliminated all the monsters without any delay. He then proceeded to the 13th, where the objective was to survive for a duration of 8 hours. After he vanquished a single weak monster, a fiery dragon materialized before him. The hero's initial instinct was to hide, but upon seeing the dragon consuming lava, he chose to attack. His attempt resulted in his death, sending him back to the 10th floor. He decided to try again, utilizing his full arsenal of artifacts. However, his sword shattered during the attempt, leading to another death and prompting a search for a new weapon. Upon returning to the arena, the hero accepted an offer to temporarily trade Rick for a set of powerful artifacts. The hero requested a sword from Lilka in exchange for his companion, justifying it by stating that she offers this quest to everyone. Nobody had ever completed it, and she hadn't fulfilled a single order in a decade. This history of failure had damaged her credibility, making it advantageous for her to help him succeed. She consented to lend him the sword for 1 week, the duration of the quest, while Rick would remain with her. If the hero could successfully finish the mission, she would return both Rick and the sword to him. Kildoris provided him with several artifacts, one of which was a skill book. Once on the 13th floor, the hero was aware of a single vulnerable scale on the dragon. His plan was to extract it while the dragon was occupied with drinking lava. The hero lodged his sword near the scale, but the dragon flung him away. Then as the hero attempted to leap onto it again using a leverage technique, the dragon sidestepped and appeared directly in front of him. After a lengthy retreat, the hero stopped and activated an artificial knight infused with obtectors. He made an attempt to pull out the scale, but his sword slipped, forcing him to continue the effort with his bare hands. He eventually succeeded in tearing the scale free, but died in the process of completing the quest. Finding himself back on the 10th floor, he observed that spectators had already filled the arena. Half of the audience was composed of members from various guilds. The organizer announced the start of the competition as the hero made his way toward the waiting area. He mistakenly found himself walking directly into the arena itself. The declaration of 15 contestants sparked outrage from the audience, who deemed it unfair. In response, the organizer devised a penalty for the participant who had bypassed the selection process. He confiscated one skill, a minor penalty considering most people had only 3 or 4. The main character possessed a great many more, making this the most lenient punishment possible for him. When presenting the skill for removal, the organizer only displayed its rank, but the hero recognized it as night vision. He was quite pleased with this outcome, and soon after, the first round of the tournament commenced. The first contestant announced was Yoon, the future manager of the arena. His challenger was an unknown fighter whose requested prize was a dinner with the princess. The hero checked the community and discovered that your bald head had ascended to the 10th floor. The competition in the arena served as confirmation, and audience members started to recognize the user. The hero's mask was drawing attention, and he received a compliment on his fashion choice. Your bald head initiated the fight abruptly and defeated Yoon with a single strike. The floor manager, who had been watching the fight, declared a plan to deal with the bald-headed fighter. He intended to eliminate this combatant after the tournament, but his deputy delivered some unwelcome news. Most of the guilds had issued orders against killing the bald-headed man, as they wished to recruit him. The bald-headed fighter proceeded to dominate his group and secure first place. The hero was later introduced as the Eye of the Devil, with Jim announced as his opponent. The protagonist opted against using his firebomb to avoid revealing his true identity. The match began, with the hero moving with great speed and leaving hidden traps with each movement. He excavated a pit behind Jim, who subsequently fell into it. Just as the main character was about to defeat his opponent, Jim unleashed bursts of mana. This tactic impeded the hero's ability to move, after which Jim deployed smoke bombs. They were obscured from the audience's view when Jim suddenly tore the mask from the hero's face. Jim recognized him the moment his helmet activated. Although not entirely certain if this was classy punk, he was under orders to find out. Jim declared that he would ascend the tower to confirm the authenticity of this individual's posts. He pledged his assistance if everything proved to be true. The hero pulled his mask back into place, and the battle resumed. This time, he created an even larger pit and activated a firebomb. The hero defeated Jim, and Kildoris declared a brief intermission. The main character, however, insisted on continuing the battle immediately. His next challenger consented and was defeated just a second after the match started. The hero hurled a stone at his opponent's face as the bald-headed man watched the fight. He aimed to win first place, intending to dedicate the victory to classy Plintsiva, whom he believed to be a woman. Upon opening the community forum, he discovered numerous invitations from guilds. An additional message was from his beloved. The classy Plinus had been unable to witness the fight, but she pledged a future meeting contingent upon his victory. Kildoros detailed the rewards for the finalists just before the ultimate battle commenced. For the third-place finisher, there would be 1,000 points and entry to the training arena. The runner-up was promised 3,000 points and a B-level designation. First place would earn a trophy, 5,000 points, a skill book, and the privilege of summoning Kildoros once. A frenzy took hold of the guild members, who were determined to claim the prizes regardless of the winner. The final match started, pitting the hero against the bald-headed fighter. Both combatants unleashed their full range of skills, with the hero delivering a firebomb as his finishing move. Yet to the astonishment of all, the bald-headed man stood firm and unscathed even after the massive detonation. They exchanged blow after blow, yet neither would fall, each persisting in the fight. The protagonist sought an upper hand by manipulating water and creating pitfalls in the terrain. The bald-headed fighter, however, deployed his signature move, a devastating strike that amplified its force tenfold. The hero was forced to his knees with defeat appearing imminent. Abruptly, however, he triggered his unique revenge ability. This development terrified the onlookers, who began to flee until Kildoros erected a protective barrier. Once the colossal explosion subsided and the dense fog cleared, a single victor remained: the hero. The hero's gaze immediately snapped to the manager's seating area, sensing something amiss. The bald-headed man was later transported to a room where he eventually awoke. Upon regaining consciousness, he was imbued with the breath of a green dragon. This gift enhanced his stats and granted him immunity to poison. He reported his defeat to the clerk before exiting the chamber. The managers were already lying in wait for him outside, poised to take him into custody. The bald-headed man spotted several exceptionally powerful individuals trailing the managers within the crowd. Suddenly, representatives of Kildoros emerged, but they were ignored and simply shoved aside. He then understood that a fight was unavoidable and steeled himself for a full-scale defense. The mob advanced on him, compelling him to take immediate action. At this time, the main character, who was searching for Lilka, ran into the familiar arena owner. The owner offered to guide him to his destination. During their walk, his companion attempted to probe for more information about the bald-headed man. The hero, however, chose not to divulge any community secrets. They found Lilka, and he promptly gave her the dragon scale he had acquired. He then made his way directly to the individual he had intended to retrieve. His companion, now attired in opulent garments, was already there and rushed to embrace his master. At that precise moment, the earth trembled as an earthquake began. The arena owner recognized the signs instantly, and the protagonist also became aware of the situation through the community forum. System protocols prevented the owner from intervening, so he offered a new mission instead. The hero accepted without hesitation, donned his mask, and departed for the site of the conflict. Upon reaching the location, he declared that he was operating under the authority of the police. They positioned themselves side by side and charged into the fray together. Their fight was relentless, affording their adversaries no opportunity to recover. The main character suddenly observed Legend struggling to stay on his feet amidst the chaos. He wasted no time, rushing forward to strike at his beleaguered opponent. In that instant, Rick ejected a stream of poison, which forced the enemy to discard his armor. This move exposed a vulnerability, and the hero swiftly landed the finishing blow. Glancing back, he saw his friend lying motionless on the ground as the crowd viciously beat him, preventing any recovery. Ignoring his own exhaustion, the hero dashed to his aid without a second thought. Suddenly, threads of mana cascaded from the sky, enveloping them. A recognizable figure appeared on a rooftop, tossing smoke bombs. This diversion provided them the cover of fog needed to make their escape. They successfully made it to the arena, where the familiar owner was waiting for them. The injured party was placed inside a specialized capsule for recovery. The main character, meanwhile, decided it was time to get some answers. He was curious about the system's focus on interactions with non-player characters. It was clarified for him that the majority of people view them as mere objects without life. A genuine bond, however, could be forged through emotional connection. With this understanding, he began to ask if there was any information available about his friends from the community. He mentioned familiar names in an effort to gather any possible intelligence. After a brief moment of silence, his conversational partner deduced his identity. The hero admitted that he was the one operating under the Plince's alias. In exchange for this information, he requested that his friends on the 10th level be kept safe. His primary objective was to ensure the protection of those he cared about. They consented to provide assistance, and the arena owner even included a small token of goodwill. The protagonist expressed his gratitude, put on his mask, and set out for the enemy organization's headquarters. He swiftly incapacitated the two guards posted at the entrance without any delay. Meanwhile, Lilka was pondering why the arena owner would extend help to a virtual stranger. He explained that he viewed the bald-headed man as his successor, a revelation that greatly surprised her. As they conversed, the traveler cleared another level and vanquished another boss. He paused briefly to open the community forum and catch up on recent developments. The report stated that the highest-ranking members had departed from the tower. It was also revealed that the guilds had been dealt a significant penalty. For their assault on a participant, they were barred from tournament participation for the next 5 years. The competitions themselves were put on hold for a minimum of 2 months. Lilka, in the interim, would be assigning new quests, which were not expected to be pleasant. After receiving his new assignment, the traveler issued a public caution to the guilds about potential repercussions. His post served as a clear warning to anyone considering harming his friends. Following this, he continued his journey, ascending to the subsequent floor. Legions of the undead, including zombies, witches, and skeletons, awaited him there. He initiated the battle by incinerating all the witches with fire first. He then torched several zombies, clearing a path for himself to advance. The skeletons, however, were immune to poison, water, and even flames. In response, the traveler excavated a vast pit directly beneath their position. He then triggered his explosion skill multiple times in succession, reducing everything within the pit to ash. The system granted him a reward, a statue marked with an unfamiliar symbol. He suddenly had the realization that his battlefield was once a tranquil village. Now, the area was controlled by embittered souls consumed by resentment, a place he knew was ruined by a witch who unleashed a plague. The truth was that it all transpired during a savage attack amid a war. The system presented the option to accept a new mission, which he accepted. At that moment, the statue he was holding began to transform before his very eyes. In its stead, several colossal beings composed of pure energy materialized. They immediately surged forward, commencing the purification of the cursed territory. The giants began their work of eradicating the evil spirits, purging the land of its infected souls. The traveler, meanwhile, was lost in thought, unable to find any clear clues. The mark of heresy had been devised by the Order of Fire for religious indoctrination. Their goal was to force a new system of belief upon all residents of the peaceful village. Their refusal triggered a brutal war that altered the region's history forever. The people were branded as heretics and transformed into zombies and skeletons. Upon grasping the full truth, the traveler understood he was now allied with the damned. Unwilling to accept this, he charged at the giants, felling one after another. He eventually made his way to a roof that offered a complete vantage point of the battle. Noticing that the evil spirits were protecting the center, he immediately made his way there. Once there, he used the power of his eyes to unearth a statue of the ice goddess. This was Prelia, an icon of a forgotten order that had once held dominion over these lands. The statue came with new lore concerning the Order of Ice and the Lost Kingdom. In a bygone era, fire had vanquished ice, initiating a religious war. He held the key to the ruins of Halton, which was once their sacred capital. He suddenly realized, however, that his conclusions were leading him down the wrong path. The genuine conflict was a long-simmering rivalry between two powers that was now reigniting. The statue seemed to react to this revelation, shattering into fragments that merged with the evil spirits. This fusion amplified their power significantly, intensifying the difficulty of the battle. Every combatant on the field received a power boost, and the traveler activated the gift from the arena owner. A savage fight then broke out between the followers and the monstrous forces. A particular witch stood out among the support units, continuously empowering the defenders of evil. One of the horsemen provided assistance, helping the hero reach the primary antagonist. He attempted to land a finishing blow, but the dark giant was regenerating with incredible speed. The Seeker then used his special vision and discerned that the creature's core was its entire body. The only viable solution was to bisect it completely, a task he then performed. Yet the being regenerated instantly, and now two of them stood before him. This forced the traveler to attempt an escape, but the monsters rapidly closed the distance. A horseman saved him just a moment before defeat by positioning himself between the hero and his pursuers. He held back the giants, creating an opportunity for his ally to drink a potion and recover. After regaining some composure, the Seeker reviewed his strategy and took out his skill books. He acquired new techniques, which he promptly fused into an ability called Return of the Deceased. He also gained the ability to enhance one skill by having it absorb another. Instead of a standard enhancement, however, the abilities merged to form a new one, freezing breaks. Armed with a fresh set of powers, he charged back into the fight against the giant. He waited for the giant to attack, and in that same instant, he activated his new technique. Following this, his stats increased dramatically, giving him a significant edge. After a few precise attacks, the dark giant was annihilated. By defeating the second giant, he acquired the fire element and earned the gratitude of the villagers. But then everything shifted, and a vision of a peaceful land appeared before his eyes. A stranger stood at the center of this illusion, holding both the sword now owned by the seeker and the woman. The scene erupted in flames, transforming the vision into one of chaos and conflict. Upon his return to reality, he saw an ice crystal with a connection to Hyalton. He also came to understand that the sword itself carries a portion of that same power. In place of the anticipated reward, however, he only gained the favor of the fire element. Infuriated, he pressed on, ascending to the 16th level. There he encountered the fire augs, spirits of flame that showed no aggression. These entities, while monstrous, possessed the potential to become allies. Individuals who could command such spirits were known as Masters of Souls. The traveler subsequently enhanced his fire resistance and upgraded the functions of his store. After checking the community forum, he learned that one of his companions had made it to level 10. He desired to meet with this ally, but the person was occupied with training under a mentor. Another of his acquaintances had been given a mission from the powerful ruler of that floor. This friend then resolved to reach level 20 at all costs, determined to follow the hero. The traveler, meanwhile, started his journey to the 17th floor, instructing the spirits to delay his friend. He also clarified to Rick his intention not to release any data from the 15th floor. His friend, in the meantime, proceeded to the 11th level without waiting for a reply. Upon entering a desert region, the traveler was given 3 new tasks to accomplish. The first task involved locating an oasis, so he made that his initial destination. An argument erupted between him and his companion at the location, which drew the attention of nearby creatures. The hostile creatures were, however, defeated swiftly and without significant effort. His attention was captured by the key from the ruins, which had begun to emit a strange glow. He started to excavate, seeking the origin of the key's reaction, as his companion rested on a rock. Observing him, the hero realized that his companion was lounging on the remnants of ancient architecture. He then submerged himself in the water and instinctively knew the direction he needed to swim. When he accessed his store, he began searching for scuba diving gear. The cost of the items gave him pause, so he reached out to a friend for assistance. His friend sent him instructions on how to manually craft a special mask. He began the crafting process, using a fish that had a human-like face. After peeling off the scales, he steeped them in a mild acid solution for 15 minutes. Once they were dry, his special eyes revealed that the scales were quite valuable and could be used to create a rare, high-class elixir. He began to gather more scales, now aware of their potential worth. The mask was eventually completed, and he and his companion descended into the water. At the bottom, a fissure opened before them that looked like a keyhole. After passing through, he saw 2 statues, one of a fire goddess and one of an ice goddess. A swarm of monsters, familiar from previous encounters, then charged at him. This time, however, the creatures assaulted him from 2 directions, complicating his defense. He eliminated them one after another until only the 2 most powerful ones were left. These were 3rd-level creatures that were noticeably more durable than the rest. Rick discharged poison, which successfully weakened the icy defender. The hero used a firebomb to finish off the weakened enemy, leaving it no chance of survival. He defeated his fiery adversary with much greater speed. The door leading to the next trial then opened before him. The initial section of the chamber was ablaze with fire, but his protective gear allowed him to pass through unharmed. The second section was filled with a paralyzing icy cold. To endure this, he instructed his companion to generate heat from within. He, in the meantime, employed a skill to shatter the ice barriers. He successfully navigated the second zone as well, revealing a passage that led further. He entered a vast treasury overflowing with jewels and enchanted objects. A figure stood in the center, who revealed himself to be a member of an enigmatic order. While his level was concealed, his immense power was immediately palpable. For having passed both trials, the traveler was granted permission to select one artifact. He could only touch a single item from among the thousands, and only for an instant. His special eyes indicated which artifact deserved his attention. He followed his intuition, approached the indicated object, and made his selection. Before him was the blade of a frost sword, which appeared to be the very embodiment of cold fire. Ragnarok gave his approval and presented the weapon, which contained the power of both elements. The elements of fire and ice immediately fused, restoring the sword to its true form. Ragnarok promptly initiated the third trial by materializing a reflection of himself. This duplicate prompted the hero to reflect on the importance of his loved ones. He came to the conclusion that Rick was his most precious friend, a realization that gave him renewed strength. With this newfound clarity, he engaged in battle with a revitalized sense of purpose, fighting as if everything was at stake. The double was vanquished after 3 powerful strikes, but this was merely the start. Ragnarok then summoned a veritable army of beast-like creatures and more of his own duplicates. The hero threw himself into the fight, methodically destroying his foes without a moment's pause. The adversaries combined their forms to become a single mighty being, but even this did not deter him. The fused mass of enemies was even more threatening, but it too was defeated by the hero. The hero readied himself for the subsequent challenge by activating his reinforcement cubes. This time the number 6 appeared, and the spirit of the individual who had reached the 84th floor manifested before him. The next phase was one of vengeance, as Ragnarok killed his friend, leaving a lion consumed by grief. An overwhelming wave of pain and anger consumed the hero, compelling him to charge forward without a second thought. He unleashed a relentless flurry of attacks, activating all his abilities in a non-stop assault to make the enemy pay for his friend's demise. The spirit that had materialized alongside him also entered the fray, contributing its power to the act of vengeance. As the protagonist's magical energy started to wane, he commanded the spirit to withdraw. He then marshaled all his remaining power for a final, decisive effort to obliterate Ragnarok and conclude the battle permanently. Despite his exhaustive efforts, the hero was unable to secure victory, which triggered the beginning of the third stage, forgiveness. The sheer force of his anger and grief propelled him to continue fighting, even as he reached the absolute limits of his stamina. Ragnarok insisted that the hero forgive him for killing his friend, attempting to restrain him with magical tethers. The hero, however, drew his dagger and plunged it into his own body, absorbing his own blood to trigger a curse. This act allowed him to conceal the sword, die, and resurrect within a safe area, successfully absconding with the temple's relic. He earned a new title, much to Ragnarok's fury. When the hero regained consciousness, he was overjoyed to see his friend alive and well before him. They now prepared to venture to new floors. Although the sword was temporarily unusable, he still possessed his dagger. His most significant gain, however, was the new title of Relic Robber, which provided a means to augment his power. This implied that every relic he stole would bolster his sacred power, leading him to devise a plan to mentally break Ragnarok. The Order's representative sensed an immense magical aura from the individual who had already cleared 2 chambers. He was hopeful that this person would become a steadfast pillar of support for the Order in the times to come. A hero poised for combat appeared before him as the door swung open. He seized the relic and used his dagger to orchestrate his own death, allowing him to be reborn and continue the conflict. For the 7th time, he was already formulating a plan to take yet another relic without pause. Ragnarok was seething with rage and focused all his efforts on annihilating his opponent. Nevertheless, the hero endured every assault and countered with threats of his inevitable return. The hero vowed to keep coming back until he received an apology for the murder of his friend. Compelled to safeguard the relics, Ragnarok ultimately relented, bowing his head and begging for forgiveness. The hero and his companion then claimed their compensation, a crown, before Rick doused their adversary with acid. They both perished immediately after, having successfully accomplished their objective. Due to the theft of the crown, a representative of the Order barred the hero from the ruins, causing the key to vanish. In its place, one of the participants presented Elian with a parchment containing instructions for crafting a mask. The hero took the parchment and, with 36,000 points in his account, purchased coupons to raise his level. He fused them to acquire new skills and then broadcasted the news to the community. The information spread like wildfire, particularly the hero's recommendation of skills like camera use and photo sharing. He also made a public promise to grant 2 skills to a specific commentator, bypassing the guilds. Tom and Louise caught wind of this gossip and went to Spencer to voice their apprehension. The leaders of the guilds had given orders not to pursue the hero, hoping to open negotiations with him instead. Tom and Louise, however, rejected this command and chose to align themselves with Spencer, who had formulated a plan. Meanwhile, the hero was inundated with offers from individuals on higher floors looking to purchase skills. Later, while browsing his friend's posts, Elian discovered that one of them had reached the 20th floor. With only one floor separating them, he decided he needed to pick up the pace. Upon his arrival at the 19th floor, he could sense the boss waiting behind the door. After consuming an elixir, he pushed the door open to find a scene of fiery devastation. Before he could even process his surroundings, a stranger appeared and gestured for him to sit at a table laden with food. After a moment of consideration, the hero chose to sample the food laid out on the table. Once he and his partner had consumed everything, their performance stats saw a remarkable improvement. They then proceeded with their primary objective, which was to defeat an unidentified foe. A boss by the name of Wayne blocked the path that Elian needed to take. A reward was promised for their victory, so they engaged in battle without delay. The hero could not simply retreat without a confrontation, leaving him no choice but to enter the fight. He delivered strike after strike, employing every skill in his possession. In the course of the battle, he managed to maneuver past Wayne and was on the verge of reaching his objective. Wayne suddenly broke free from the grip of crabs and objectors, landing a powerful strike. The hero held his position, and while delivering a forceful blow of his own, inadvertently completed his goal. He acquired the Seal of Fire, assimilated it, and enhanced his fire-related abilities. He also earned the approval of the Order of Fire, which granted him permission to use their relics. Wayne expressed interest in the hero's sword and proposed an exchange. He offered a helmet, a piece of a set the hero already partially owned. The hero accepted the deal and proceeded to the 20th floor. Meanwhile, Lilka emerged from behind a corner and started to mend the shield the hero had shattered. She reforged it into a fire protector shield, an item that offered substantial advantages. Equipped with his new gear, Wayne stepped through the portal while uttering the name of a mysterious girl. Elian noticed a smaller population of people upon reaching the 20th floor. While he was searching for Lilka, she found him first. She then pulled him towards someone and pleaded for his help, which put him on edge. Their destination, however, was a kiosk, where Lilka simply asked him to buy her something. This seemingly simple request caused the hero considerable embarrassment. The hero discovered that Lilka owed Bella for a meal. He decided that the debt must be settled before she would be allowed to pet Rick. It was then revealed that Rick was female, a fact that caught the main character by surprise. He pulled Lilka into an alley and began inquiring about other pieces of armor, suggesting a beneficial trade. Lilka consented but confessed that she did not possess any armor pieces herself. She did, however, promise to give him information about the NPC who did have them. As compensation for Lilka's pestering, the hero decided to take Rick for a swim. After equipping the helmet, he found out that the armor possessed self-repair capabilities and that its stats increased significantly. Deeply impressed, he immediately accessed the community forum, where he saw a reminder about an upcoming competition. The competition's main objective was defense, with the floor sectioned into zones from which participants had to choose one. Teams were required to work together to eliminate monsters. To enter the event, one needed to speak with an NPC, so the hero made his way to Bella. She explained that the majority of participants selected other zones due to their abundance of defensible structures. Their particular zone had only a single building, resulting in consistent and heavy losses. When a participant is killed, their points are distributed among their team, leading some to orchestrate such events. The hero mulled over her words, realizing that a person defending a zone alone would claim all the rewards. He resolved to be that lone defender, motivated by personal gain while maintaining the appearance of a hero. At that same time, 4 unknown men were engaged in a game of chess in a different zone. They eventually took notice of an unfamiliar person who had been constructing barricades for several days. They offered him some pointers, but it was already too late. This individual was none other than Lick My Top. His construction was complete, and the competition was just about to start. The hero, upon entering his zone, noted the presence of 30 other participants. He activated his special eyes to scan the information of the participants, but did not find Lisna Moy Makivku. He did, however, identify several noteworthy competitors, including a man named Pakunsek. Pakunsek put on a display, reviving a goblin only to incinerate it moments later. This act inspired other participants to do the same. The main character, however, opted to follow his own course of action. He donned a mask and entered the competition under the name Devil's Eye. When the official roster was announced, the hero discovered that Lisni Moy Makivku had also chosen the same district. And with that, the first wave of monsters began its assault. The hero's team members immediately prepared for retreat, but he charged into the fight, inspiring the others to follow. The first wave concluded, and the second wave commenced immediately after. The hero took note of several other participants. Sabina was rapidly producing robots that engaged the monsters in combat. Lisan eliminated his foes so swiftly that they were dead before they could even react. Pakunsek, meanwhile, was instructing other participants on how to accumulate points for no effort. He would consume the monsters that others had already destroyed, thus gaining points for their demise. Elian brought the second wave to a close by destroying the final monster. When he checked the rankings, he saw he was in second place, with Lick My Top holding the top spot. At that moment, Listening My Top was busy fending off the third wave, eliminating all the airborne monsters. He then transitioned to the ground forces and was the first to clear the wave. Upon checking the rankings, however, he was shocked to see he had dropped to second place, with Elian now in first. The hero, meanwhile, was engaged with the fifth wave, battling level 3 monsters and racking up points. He was fighting with everything he had when he saw that Lisan and Sabina were barely able to stand. His attention then shifted to Pakunsek, who was actively undermining the perfect synergy of their strategy. The plan involved the hero engaging the front line, while Lisan and Sabina eliminated the remaining enemies from the rear. Pakunsek, however, had positioned himself behind them, attempting to kill Lisan and Sabina to steal their points. The hero appeared next to Sabina in an instant, grabbing her and destroying the attacking monsters. He then rushed over to Lisan and saved him as well. Pakunsek and several other participants then approached him, asking for his help. The hero aided them by creating a holy shield to protect the group. He forcefully pushed Pakunsek away, denying him entry to the shield, which led to his death at the hands of the monsters. The hero then turned toward the enemy horde as Sabina and Lisan felt the shockwave of an explosion. After the blast, the dome vanished, and the hero emerged from the fog, declaring their victory. They were the first team to defeat all the monsters. Following their triumph, the other participants thanked the hero, and Lisan and Sabina formally introduced themselves. They mentioned a recently established fan club, led by Todd, where they shared information. The hero learned he was ranked second and decided to tear down the barriers surrounding his area. He grabbed his sword and ventured into the other zones. Meanwhile, the bald-headed individual who had ranked first was unable to savor the victory, as the leaderboard had updated. This person removed their helmet, revealing herself to be a girl named Lily. It was revealed that she is a gold medalist in volleyball, with a strong aversion to losing. After the competition concluded, the barrier fell, and Lily found herself face-to-face with a crowd of guild members. They requested to speak with the classy princess, offering gifts as an incentive. The hero, in the meantime, was dining with Lilka at Bella's and inquired about the parchment fragment he had received. Bella recalled that a similar artifact was stored in the warehouse. After examining the parchment, Lilka concluded that it was likely a trigger artifact. This classification suggested a connection to a quest or ruins, hinting that it could be a key to something significant. The hero grew curious about how NPCs acquire the artifacts they offer as quest rewards. Lilka explained that they either purchase them through the system, trade with other merchants, or find them through their own efforts. She also mentioned her willingness to share the specifics of system purchases for a fee of 50,000 points. Given their level of trust, however, she could have disclosed this for a lower price. Elian thanked her with a gentle pat, which caused Lilka to feel a bit flustered. Bella appeared at that exact moment and also made a comment about the interaction. Lilka became angry, splashed Elian with water, and fled, while Bella explained the context. She clarified that every NPC has a specific role they must adhere to, which is why Lilka felt ashamed. Bella then presented him with a second piece of parchment, which was a map to treasures concealed on the 28th floor. Elian expressed his thanks, promoted Bella's stall in the community, and then made his way to the 21st floor. There he defeated monsters, acquired a skill book for cold resistance, and received a victory reward. After obtaining a skill improvement ticket, he used it to enhance his luck stat. It didn't take long for his luck to pay off, as he discovered something of value buried in the ground. Elian excavated the area and unearthed the third map fragment before moving on to the 22nd floor. He submerged himself in icy water to raise his cold resistance level. Following this, he invested 52,000 points into enhancing his skills. Rick, meanwhile, announced that she was hungry, so Elian allowed her to pick out their lunch. While she was making her choice, he was busy buying the necessary ingredients for an elixir. He later negotiated a deal with Todd for a skill book on potion making. In return, he offered a brooch of seething power and 5,000 points to fund a fan club dinner. Elian was pleased with the transaction, as it left him with a balance of 45,000 points. The system, however, suddenly informed him that Rick had spent the entire 45,000 on a takeaway buffet. This news infuriated Elian, and he moved to cancel the buffet order. The system, however, issued a warning that doing so would result in a confrontation with combatants. These individuals specialized in hunting level 5 to 6 monsters for their culinary ingredients. The hero accepted his fate and proceeded to the 24th floor to retrieve a piece of armor. After clearing the 23rd floor, the hero advanced to the 24th to undertake the quest given to him by Lilka. He soon arrived at the Aqueti Cave, where he was met by snowballs. These clumps of snow appeared harmless from a distance, but were actually poisonous. Inside a cave he had previously discovered, he found a strange carving of a pose. The door opened after he successfully mimicked the pose. He cleared several more similar challenges before arriving at a dance floor. Here the objective was to win a dance-off without resorting to any combat skills. Victory would grant him the material for Lilka and another piece of parchment. The hero, however, was eliminated in the initial selection round, but luckily a second round was announced. He was joined by 9 other participants in this subsequent round. The hero's attempts to eliminate his rivals were futile, as he was unable to inflict any damage. Rick then intervened, striking a blow that shifted the dynamics of the competition. When the supplementary round commenced, the hero was the sole contestant to take the stage and was therefore automatically accepted. The main round started, and the hero incorporated his skills as visual special effects. He performed a dance routine he had practiced before his arrival. He initially placed third, an outcome that did not satisfy him. By incorporating even more spectacular effects, he ultimately secured the first-place position. Along with his prize, the hero received the crown of the Dancing Master and a new title. This title provided a means to boost his stats through the act of dancing. He then departed for a snowy mountain to find the merchant Lilka had told him about. The merchant Alias had a fondness for flowers and dresses and was known to be quite powerful. Upon entering Alias's domain, the hero observed that everything was in full bloom, yet the owner was clearly displeased by his presence. Alias refused his gifts and killed the hero without a word. After reviving on the 20th floor, the hero recounted his experience to Bella. She noted that her business was thriving, while the hero made 12 more failed attempts to climb, dying each time. On his 13th attempt, he decided to enlist some help. After acquiring the seal of the trading company, he set out once more. On the 24th floor, just before another certain death, he presented the seal and finally met Alias face to face. The hero attempted a retaliatory strike, but Alias evaded it, causing the hero to fall and lose consciousness. When he awoke, he went to meet Alias, and a conversation began between them. The owner elaborated on why he protected his territory from unpredictable traders and visitors. Alias later revealed a piece of armor, the right hand, which was the item the hero had come for. To obtain this piece, however, Alias challenged the hero to a duel. If the hero could land even a single scratch, the item would be his. As the fight began, the protagonist grasped how desperately Alias was trying to defend his home. He therefore aimed directly for the building itself and was instantly beside it, threatening its destruction. The moment the hero's hand touched the wall, a soul stone erupted from his bag, altering the entire situation. Alias was left with no choice but to accept the hero's terms and trade the armor piece for the artifact. As a gesture of goodwill and to prove he meant no harm, he named the hero his successor. This appointment guaranteed the hero's safety, which he accepted before landing a strike on Alias. Following this, Alias escorted the hero to a special chamber within his residence. Behind the door lay the frozen, deceased body of Penny, the daughter of Emperor Great Fron. A romantic connection existed between Alias and Penny, prompting him to draw the soul stone into her very being. While the owner focused on the task of reviving Penny, the main character waited in the adjoining room. He made an effort not to intrude, but his attention was captured by Alias's boots, which his luck stat had highlighted. The hero immediately equipped them, and Alias, upon seeing this, was in no position to object. They stepped outside, where the host began to provide a detailed explanation of NPCs and their successors. NPCs are the proprietors of the tower, and they pay a steep cost for the privilege of existing within it. Every NPC is assigned specific duties, and failure to fulfill them results in their reversion to a standard system NPC. Alias himself fell into this category, which explained why he did not reside on the designated safe floors. Because the tower's floors are unique for each ascent, Alias had to traverse every single one. This grueling journey had caused his soul to fracture into countless pieces, leaving him with a mere 10 years of existence. An NPC can achieve freedom if their successor conquers the 100th floor, meaning the hero was destined for rigorous training. He would become a target for many other NPCs, and if he failed to master the tower, he would join their ranks. The hero's training was to be overseen by Alias, a phantom swordsman who had been attempting to conquer the 99th floor. Alias had to suspend his training and hurry to the workshop, leaving the hero with 30 tiers of equity. He fashioned a necklace from the remaining materials and bestowed it upon Penny, who was on the verge of reawakening. They proceeded toward her, and as the crystal encasing her shattered, Penny returned to life. She clarified that Great Front was a golden empire that predated the appearance of the tower. Chaos erupted within the empire following that event, and Alias, failing to clear the 99th floor, returned there. As an NPC, he discovered a method to bring Penny into the tower by sealing her soul within a stone and her body in a crystal. Over time, however, he misplaced the stone, and now Penny stood before them, stating that her need for food was more pressing. At this point, the hero chose to step in, leading them to the courtyard to reveal a surprise from Alias. A takeaway buffet was set up before them, prepared to cater to all their culinary desires. As they began to eat, the main character observed that the owner's health was deteriorating. This was due to the accelerated decay of his self-awareness, compelling the hero to take action. Elian requested the gem from Alias and inscribed Meow Punch upon it. After presenting the seal, he sent the stone with the note that it was the work of a master. The proposed contract was as follows. Alias would craft stones for her. By performing this work and earning points, he would be able to remain within the tower. Concurrently, a worker from the cafeteria presented Elian with a VIP invitation to a party. The worker confessed, however, that they were scouting for regular customers because of a labor shortage. This implied a desire to establish deals with clients for the purpose of sourcing ingredients. After their meal, they retired for the night, but the main character was unexpectedly approached by Alias in the morning. He was instructed to pack his belongings, and in the courtyard, it was explained that NPCs tasked with gathering information on people were soon to arrive. To protect his identity and prevent future complications, the hero needed to vacate the premises. Alias gave him instructions to traverse the entire tower to preserve his anonymity. Upon dismissing the hero, he provided a skill book and his own battle memories, granting an advantage on all floors. Just as the hero was preparing to depart, a message arrived from Mao Punch, stating that her company's agents were already on the 24th floor. Elian was once again forced to meet the requirements for opening a portal. He suddenly spotted the NPCs, one of whom seemed to sense his presence. That NPC immediately charged in his direction, forcing Elian into swift action. The main character employed his dagger, deceived the NPC, and triggered his own death, respawning on the 20th floor. He was only able to ascend to the 25th floor 2 days later, after Lilka had thoroughly scouted the area. He arrived in a post-apocalyptic landscape, where he sensed a poisonous energy and moved toward its source. He collected a solution that he thought might prove useful in the future. Proceeding further, he encountered a sealed emergency exit, and as he passed, armed robots materialized before him. The hero took cover, his mind flashing back to moments spent alongside soldiers fighting monsters. In those days, even the sight of a weapon filled him with fear, but he was a changed man now. He destroyed the robots without a moment's hesitation and successfully unlocked the portal, completing the task. He then collected the weapons, intending to craft gear for those who were just beginning their journey in the tower. He contacted Todd and, in return, received 3 skill books that would aid him in creating potions and armaments. Once his preparations were complete, he started toward the portal but was inexplicably drawn to a door behind him. He located a ventilation shaft and instructed Rick to climb up, just as his luck drew his attention to a side door. Rick activated a lever that opened the door, and the two of them proceeded inside. Elian discovered enormous capsules, a sight that sparked new questions within him. The capsules held the inhabitants of the fallen village, who had encased themselves in specialized machinery. Their goal had been to return to the world of light, but a system malfunction resulted in the death of everyone. Elian, contemplating what he had witnessed, continued to the 26th floor, where he easily defeated the resident monster. He then posted an update on his progress and learned of the arrival of a new wave of challengers. He also got a notification that the weapons for the newcomers were ready and requested Todd to dispatch the artifacts. The delivery was intended for Jim, a member of a rival guild. Meanwhile, on the 30th floor, Spencer, Tom, and Louise were commanded to ascend to the 40th floor. Their strategic discussion was cut short by an assistant bearing news. It was revealed that the classy princess had provided Jim with a camera and photos, prompting them to set their plan in motion. On the 27th floor, Elian sifted through cooperation offers from various guilds. He then readied himself for the task on the floor above, the eradication of cold-blooded trees. After felling 23 trees, Elian went in search of a snow spirit to finish the quest. He was approached by a small, barely living tree that pleaded with him to destroy the others. Elian, in a hurry to find the spirit, promised to come back later, but his special eyes provided a hint. This small tree was the spirit itself, so the hero eliminated all the others and helped it to blossom. The tree then transformed into a girl who expressed her gratitude for being saved. The girl identified herself as the queen of the snow spirits and recounted her people's origins. She explained that snow spirits are the progenitors of elves and druids, with a history spanning several generations. The queen presented Elian with her crown, but it did not register in the system or contribute to his achievements. She then requested his aid, as she was the last snow spirit, and her body could give rise to new ones. These new spirits could fulfill any of Elian's wishes, but he first had to complete her task. A new objective was set. He was to assist her transformation into a seed and then plant it in a specific location. A high elf was supposed to help him in this endeavor, and a significant reward was promised for its completion. Elian recognized the unique nature of the quest before him and chose to seize the opportunity. He inquired about the location where the queen had concealed the destroyed treasure map, and she hinted at the whereabouts of the fragments. The queen also offered a crucial piece of advice for completing the mission: eat a great deal. Having transformed into a seed, the queen entrusted her fate entirely to Elian. He took the seed, unearthed 2 more map fragments, and then proceeded to the 28th floor. He completed the task on this floor with no trouble and unlocked a portal on the castle's roof. Elian alerted Lily about the treasures on the 28th floor and then followed the clues toward the castle. After taking only a few steps, he felt the floor give way beneath him, revealing a new passage. He discovered a door that led into a labyrinth and entered without a second thought. After navigating several traps, he encountered a dead man's lamp, an item from local folklore. Within the tower, a green light signaled the presence of ghosts capable of driving anyone to madness. None of his attacks had any effect on them, making it necessary for Rick to step in and neutralize the spirits. This created an opening for the main character to reach the deceased lamp, close it, and claim it for himself. Continuing his journey, he arrived at a crossroads with each path marked by a different symbol. He took a chance and explored each path. A trap lay in the triangular one and a hydra in the square one. After vanquishing the hydra, he acquired its pearl and allowed his companion to consume its flesh, resulting in new armor. The main character later received an angry message from Jim. The gift had made him a target for everyone, but he had still managed to become a semi-novice. It turned out that on the 6th floor, another guild was attempting to seize control and coerce others into taking the pellet. The hero assigned his assistant the task of finding a way to bypass this floor and continued his own journey. The 3rd path he chose was already in ruins, suggesting that he was not the first to navigate the maze. He then found himself on a path marked with a circle and approached the door to a treasury. Upon opening it, he entered a room overflowing with artifacts of the highest caliber. He was unable to determine, however, which of them might lead to a catastrophe. At the far end of the room, he was confronted by a being who introduced itself as Puregos, the guardian of treasures. This entity was revealed to be both immortal and the master of the labyrinth. The guardian's threats had no effect on the hero, who, armed with the truth, began to laugh. The owner of the treasure had taken the map and was now seeking to indulge in the riches. The guardian, incensed, launched an attack, but the hero held his ground, trading blow for blow. During a lull in the fighting, the main character asked Rick to locate the vessel of life. The guardian had become a lich to achieve immortality and claimed to have made great sacrifices for the Empire. The reality, however, was that he coveted all the treasures for himself. The final fragments of the map were under Haine's protection, and the guardian had used an artifact to become a lich. He had personally placed a mark in the labyrinth to ensure he could return. The hero deduced that his opponent's magic was not yet perfected, which gave him a strategic advantage. The guardian explained that those who ascended the tower could become NPCs and avoid returning to their ruined world. Those who could not ascend were left with no choice but to simply survive. The security guard, once an ordinary person, had only managed to reach the 35th floor. As a result, he entered into a pact with the devil and became his subordinate. The Empire had spurned his proposals, and he had been one step too late, becoming an integral part of the tower. The news of the hero's deal with Kildoris shocked the guard, causing a moment of surprise. The hero decided to hold on to the challenge card, saving it for the later stages of his journey. A moment later, Rick appeared before them, holding the vessel of life, which he shattered with ease. This action officially made the hero the first person to ever defeat the boss of the maze. Before he departed, he acquired new skills specifically designed for long-range combat. He then shared the outcome of his labyrinth conquest with the community. It was there he learned that clearing the 30th floor required a partner, and the bald-headed individual expressed a desire to be that partner. Upon reaching the 29th floor, the protagonist chose to focus on increasing his resistance to cold and poison. On the 30th floor, meanwhile, leaders from various guilds were convening to plan their strategy regarding the newcomers. The decision was made to place the floor under Jim's temporary control, a choice that was met with some skepticism. Before executing the order, Jim assembled all the guild members and issued a command through a window. He ordered the expulsion of the class of princes and all her followers from the tower. The protagonist decided to pass the time by dancing to increase his level, but a female boss suddenly appeared. This was Magneto, a pillar of the Order of Ice and Fire, who beckoned him to follow her. Inside the building, he was reunited with Wayne, the boss from the 19th floor. They explained that the actions of the hero's followers had destroyed the last temple, thereby cleansing both Magneto and Wayne of their sins. The hero realized these were the very same figures he had witnessed in his illusion on the 15th floor. Magneto announced that in place of a trial, she would grant him the Seal of Ice as a gesture of thanks. This seal bestowed the right to become a paladin of the Order, a position that came with a chance of rebirth. The protagonist was tasked with spreading the word of the Order as he ascended the tower, giving it a chance to be reborn. As he prepared to receive the gift, the hero felt his body begin to succumb to the cold. He was therefore forced to activate his fire seal to create a balance between the opposing forces. As a result of this fusion, he became a paladin and earned the new title of Paladin of the Forgotten Order. He now had access to sacred artifacts, but Wayne noted that the hero was still lacking certain skills. He therefore bestowed upon him the Love and Pass On artifact, which allows for the peaceful incapacitation of enemies. Wayne also imparted knowledge on how to augment one's sacred power by climbing the tower. The hero learned that Wayne and Magneto had reached the 94th and 96th floors, respectively, and he received their counsel. After their departure, the Order fractured into two factions and was ultimately destroyed. The main character was now tasked with reuniting these two disparate forces. Magneto expressed her gratitude and opened a portal, through which the hero traveled to the 30th floor. He observed a storm brewing in the sky, a clear sign of the newcomer's approach. He decided to head to the guest yard but found it deserted. As he rounded a corner, however, he saw a mob of guild members cornering Lyson. Another manager on the 30th floor, a member of the Alliance, was demanding information. The hero checked his messages and decided to assist Lyson before addressing the guild's order. He pulled on his mask, launched a pebble that took out several people, and caused the rest to scatter. As they fled, they yelled that he had 1 week to remove the pass or a war would erupt. On the 26th floor, Jim received a message from Spencer regarding the lift. He was under orders to eliminate all members of the Classy Princess Alliance on the 30th floor, but was displeased with the command. Jim chose to cut his ties with the guild and went to confront Spencer. The protagonist, meanwhile, deduced that the newcomers had entered the tower when he saw the brightly lit sky. He created a new post, and after conducting a roll call, found that the survival rate had risen to 70. He later decided to address the situation with Lilka, whom he spotted through a window. She was bothering people, asking them to buy things, until she was struck on the head by the main character. After pulling her aside, he handed her tears to Akeda and the crown that was not a crown. With all the snow spirits now gone, only the seed remained. Lilka informed him that the seed could be planted in any location, provided an elf or druid was nearby. Such individuals were typically found above the 70th floor, but Lilka recalled a druid on the 35th floor. This druid had been stripped of his position as a priest following accusations of attempting to destroy the human kingdom. His village was burned down as a result, and he now harbored a deep hatred for humans. The hero headed for the portal, intending to form a team of at least 4 people. He encountered Sabina, a member of the Classy Plintus Alliance. The woman applied a bandage to him without asking any questions, and then invited him to join her team. The team also included Shogun, Teijin, and Enmi, all of whom struck the main character as quite formidable. He accepted her offer and proposed that he serve as the commander. Before they could enter the portal, they were confronted by a guild team but chose to ignore them and proceed to the 31st floor. The initial task was an obstacle course, with the goal being to reach the finish line. Only 5 teams were permitted to advance to the finals, and of all the competitors, only 2 were from the Alliance. The hero leaped up to survey the area and spotted a bright light emanating from a mountain. He and Taejin agreed to separate and investigate. The main character came across a green jellyfish, whose curse could turn him to stone. He managed to destroy it and escape, and the rest of his team, including Taejin, arrived shortly after. After finding 5 curse-resistant skill books, he distributed them among the team members. The hero moved in the direction of a sound he heard, instructing the team to go the opposite way. As he advanced, he discovered an alliance team that was on the verge of collapse after being attacked by monsters. He provided them with aid and elixirs and learned that the guilds had unleashed weakening monsters on them. One of the participants explained that the light on the mountain was a sign of an artifact being used by the guilds. This confirmed that the guilds had mobilized, using spellbooks to weaken the other teams. They had almost reached the second artifact when they were ambushed by green jellyfish. The jellyfish turned them to stone, and it was revealed that the main character was behind this attack. He had observed the jellyfish attack and then claimed the artifact for himself. Using his abilities, he located the spellbooks hidden on the map and brought them back to his team. They resumed their journey, and at one point Shogun grew hungry and requested some dried beef. The year that Elian had been concealing also made a request, questioning if the team could be trusted. He accepted the beef, and Rick emerged from under his jacket, charming everyone with his cuteness. They then continued their journey and soon arrived at the final stage, a mountain of shifting sand. The team members linked themselves together and proceeded in a single file line, with Elian leading the way. 4 spellbooks were suddenly activated against them, causing the entire team to plummet downwards. Elian found himself unable to use his skills but could still activate his artifacts. He activated the Holy Crab, which assisted him in lifting the team back to the summit. As an act of revenge, Elian activated 5 spellbooks on his opponents just before crossing the finish line. On the 32nd floor, every participant was given 2 boxes containing random skills. As a gesture of gratitude, the team decided to give all their boxes to Elian. Back in his room, he opened the first box and received the Firebomb skill, an ability he already possessed. His luck stat reacted to the second box, which yielded the Magic Neutralization skill, an ability that nullified magical attacks. Elian's moment of joy was cut short by Todd, who brought news of the Alliance's troubles. He reported that the guilds were attacking people without discrimination, and upon their respawn on the 30th floor, they were being systematically hunted by the manager's team in an effort to drive them out of the tower. On the 27th floor, meanwhile, the bald-headed individual received a message from the police officer. He was asking for assistance for the Alliance members, offering a meeting on the 50th floor as a reward. Elian and his team found themselves on the 32nd floor, engaged in a capture mission. The objective was to seize control of the zone within 12 hours. Failure would result in their elimination from the game. Elian's team had to fend off attacks from the combined forces of the guilds, who were assaulting them from all sides. The protagonist devised a strategy, aware that each zone was guarded by a single person. His plan was to create a diversion for the opponents while the rest of his team captured the other areas. Elian charged into the fray, drawing the attackers to him and eliminating them one by one. He either ignored their attacks or countered with dances to enhance his skills. He utilized every possible skill and artifact at his disposal, relentlessly destroying his opponents. He suddenly erected a barrier around himself, leading his enemies to believe they had trapped him. During this time, he planted bombs throughout the area and made his escape just as they began to detonate. The system announced the elimination of 3 teams and bestowed a new title upon Elian. His condition, however, was critical, and only 2 minutes remained on the countdown. He lacked the strength to get up and had already come to terms with a potential loss. Closing his eyes, allies suddenly appeared and pulled him to safety, despite the dwindling time. He opened his eyes in the final second before defeat to see 2 Alliance teams. Victory belonged to them, and the mission was accomplished, though Elian had barely survived the experience. Elian sat in the waiting room, contemplating his combined skills and new ranks. He decided to create a post advertising the sale of skills and cameras, complete with a discount. He suddenly received a photo from your bald head, who had already reached the 30th floor. He had interrupted a conversation between guild members, defeated them, and then taken a picture of the resulting pile of bodies. The photo was sent to Elian, bringing a great deal of joy to the main character. After leaving the room, he rejoined his team, took some arrows, and used a skill to imbue them with fire. This act nearly exposed his identity, as Todd had previously mentioned that only Plintesses possess this skill. Elian quickly fabricated an explanation, claiming the skill had been passed down to him by the Plintesses. The team proceeded to the 33rd floor, where their task was to transport an injured person. The role of the injured party was randomly assigned to Elian, who instantly collapsed, unable to use his skills. The rules were straightforward. If he was not delivered within the allotted time, he would die, and another team member would be injured. Shogun volunteered to carry Elian, who soon realized he could still use his artifacts. They encountered another team along the way and decided to engage them in battle. After defeating their rivals, they reached a cable that stretched across a river, which they needed to cross. Shogun and Elian started the first leg of the crossing, during which Shogun confessed his personal history. On the 20th floor during the defense competition, his own teammates had abandoned him to serve as bait. He had managed to survive but had lost all trust in people as a result. His encounter with Elian, known as the Eye of the Devil, had changed his perspective. He had begun to trust again and had no regrets about it. As they completed the crossing, Elian sensed that something was amiss. Sabina and Teijin were being assaulted by members of the guilds. Shogun, inspired by the example of the Devil's Eye, did not hesitate to rush back and save his friends. The number of opponents was far greater this time, and a true battle for survival had begun. Sabina and Teijin provided cover for each other, repelling the attacks from their adversaries. The guild group's commander suddenly used a detection skill, rendering Teijin's stealth ability useless. They found themselves surrounded, and the situation grew increasingly desperate until Shogun arrived, turning the fight into a 3 versus 20 battle. Later, as the guild members began to fall, Jim appeared, turned on his own people, and began to eliminate them. Elian, having learned of Jim's presence on the 33rd floor, sent an appeal on behalf of the princess, asking for aid for the Devil's Eye. He offered the ability to use the main character as he saw fit as a reward. Without waiting for a reply, Jim annihilated all the opponents, then picked up a wounded man and moved on. After crossing the chasm, he addressed Elian and requested his help in killing the guild newcomers. He revealed that 2 of them had no coins for revival, and one of the women had only a single coin left. Jim's plan was to reach the 35th floor, where the guilds intended to kill the princess and her followers. Elian consented to help him, but vowed to get there first and destroy them himself. After relocating to a safe zone, Jim killed the wounded man he was carrying and made contact with a lion through their artifacts. They moved to the arena, where only their team and the guilds remained. The audience was filled with NPCs, including many of Elion's acquaintances. Fleta, the NPC overseeing the 34th floor, healed all the wounds of the combatants. Upon hearing her name, Elian realized that the sword he was holding had once belonged to her. Elian shouted, labeling her a traitor in an attempt to capture her attention. This action, however, only served to worsen the situation, resulting in more difficult trials. Fleta, witnessing his power, introduced dangerous plants to the arena, ones that normally grow above the 40th floor. She assessed the combat performance of all the teams, most of which had scores around 5,000 points. Jim's team, despite consisting of only one person, had an equivalent point value. Elian's team, on the other hand, which had 8 members, boasted a score of 18,000 points. To create a more level playing field, Fleta decided to restructure the teams for balance. She sorted them into 2 groups, Team A and Team B. Team A was composed of 30 guild members and had a total score of 29,000 points. Team B had 9 members, including Elian, Jim, Sabina, and others, with a score of 23,000 points. The team that lost would be eliminated, and all its members would die. NPCs were then permitted to place wagers, with their winnings being a percentage of the team's prize. The match consisted of 6 fights, and a team needed to win 4 to claim victory. Fleta determined the combatants for each fight, starting with Sabina, whom she placed first. She was pitted against 2 opponents and emerged victorious. Jim also won his match against a single opponent. Shogun and Teijin were next, but they were defeated, leaving all hope resting on Enmi. Enmi was extremely anxious before her fight, so Elian decided to help her prepare. He lit a fire and invited her to dance, which increased her combat stats. He then informed her about the plants in the arena and suggested ways she could use them. A newly motivated Enmi entered the battle, utilizing the plants one by one. She ensnared her opponents with vines and then used the arcane ballista skill at its highest level. By firing at her opponents, she secured the win. This victory significantly boosted the team's morale, giving them a strong chance of winning the overall competition. The fleet assigned 16 people to fight Elian, a number that didn't present a significant challenge. Her animosity, however, was palpable, and he quickly picked up on it. His special eyes informed him that if she persisted in this behavior, she risked being added to the rebel list. Elian capitalized on this information, approaching her and alluding to the potential repercussions. His knowledge was sufficient to know that she was powerless to attack him. He offered to share information about the system in exchange for a single concession, permission to place bets. The fleet agreed, and the team wagered their valuable artifacts. The battle commenced, and Rick proposed a strategy to capture all the opponents simultaneously. The plan involved dropping the horn to lure one of the enemies, and it unfolded exactly as planned. One of the opponents noticed the horn, sparking a fight over the artifact. During the skirmish, they noticed a deceased person's lamp nearby, from which ghosts immediately emerged. These ghosts weakened them, but Elion vanquished them with the Aurora Ray. Victory was theirs, and the team began the task of clearing the debris from the arena. While dragging the broken lamp, Elion found himself transported to a white space that resembled a void. Fleta appeared before him there, and her reaction to seeing his sword was not favorable. Her interest, however, was not in the sword, but in the horn which she could use to summon Kildoris. Fleta revealed her connection to Kildoris, explaining their marriage during the war between heaven and hell. She had betrayed her side for his sake, tearing the barrier between the worlds of heaven and hell, and he had taken advantage of her love. Not wishing to delve into the details, Fleta offered to provide the means to acquire Felon's armor. Elion considered the offer for a moment. He was still indebted to Kildoris and did not want to cause him any trouble. The allure of the offer was too great, however, and he ultimately accepted her proposal. The team relocated to the waiting area, where the protagonist showed off his rewards. He had received skill boxes, elixirs, iron armor, spell crystals, and other practical items. Among the loot was a decision-making lollipop that immediately drew Rick's attention. He ate it, and his level increased substantially. Elion equipped his new gear, and alongside his team proceeded to the 35th floor, the hunting ground of Hunetufwad Frarts. Their objective was to reach a safe zone, but 5 additional bosses patrolled the surface. Each boss controlled their own territory, which had varying rates of survival. The most perilous was the exiled druid, whose zone offered only a 1% chance of survival. This was the boss that Elion specifically needed to encounter. To ensure his own safety and that of his team, however, he decided to head for Safe Zone 2. The range of one of the bosses suddenly expanded due to a countdown, forcing them to decide whether to flee. After receiving a notification about the creation of a safe zone, they continued on their way. A local boss materialized on their path, and a battle immediately broke out between it and Elion. Elion commanded his team to join the fight, and the resulting chaos was visible from a great distance. Spencer was observing the battle, planning his move against the Devil's Eye and Jim, who suddenly appeared from behind. Elion's team fought relentlessly and eventually defeated the boss, earning a new title. The main character, having contributed the most to the victory, received the Greenstone Thing, which granted him control over 3 zones. With this new power, 3 windows appeared on his screen. In the first window, he saw attackers pursuing Lisan, and in another, Jim was engaged in a fight with Spencer. They were evenly matched, neither resorting to decisive moves, both skillfully evading attacks. Spencer suddenly realized the battle was likely to drag on and activated his unique skill. He unleashed a giant's punch, striking Jim directly in the face. Just moments before Jim's certain death, the main character appeared, utilizing his new powers. He activated the Greenstone and altered the landscape of the area, thereby saving Jim. They then made a hasty retreat to assist other team members who were also under attack. After vanquishing their foes, they started to formulate a plan to eliminate the newcomers. The newcomers, meanwhile, had regrouped, and one of them correctly guessed that Elion's next target would be the boss of Zone 2. They made the decision to prepare an ambush. Louise was out on a scouting mission when she was abruptly attacked. The attacking group included Sabina and Lisan, who immediately began to flee. They successfully lured Louise after them, leading her toward Zone 5, where the survival chance is a mere 1%. Louise was unaware that the main character had already scouted this area some time ago. Wearing the crown of the Queen of Spirits, he had gone there and met with the druid. The druid, who despised humans, attacked on sight, refusing to listen to the protagonist's explanations. At the last possible moment, the protagonist summoned a powerful ally, Kildoris. He immediately began shouting, expressing his outrage over the problems with Fleta. It turned out that Fleta had fled from heaven to hell and had placed the blame on Kildoris. Despite his anger, Kildoris decided to table the conversation and compelled the druid to listen to him. A savage fight erupted between them, but the main character was ordered to leave the zone. During this time, one part of the area was sectioned off to prevent its destruction. This left Sabina alone with Louise, until Lisan suddenly appeared. Louise managed to evade his initial strike but still outmaneuvered him, assuming the dangerous foe was dead. Elian then appeared, activating an artificial night and new uptectors, which the other participant began to destroy. The protagonist ordered Sabine and the new team member to handle the guild members and focus on the newcomers. After attempting a strike, the newcomers held their position and launched a counterattack, knocking the hero to the ground. The protagonist got to his feet and initiated a new fight. He observed that while one participant defended, the other attacked. He decided to target the enemy's wings, using holy magic to destroy them. He cast a spell on the defender, forcing her into a confrontation with her own inner demon. While she was occupied, the main character continued his battle with the attacking enemy. After landing several blows, he grabbed his opponent and ascended high into the sky. He then used his gravity bracelet to plummet downwards, finishing off his opponent. His other opponent, in the meantime, had regained her senses, now possessed of new demonic powers, and immediately launched an attack. She was then struck by a giant bullet, and Lily appeared. A competition now arose between them to see who could eliminate the most newcomers. A new adversary began to fight another participant, and the main character rushed to provide assistance. He was determined to destroy another enemy, hoping to secure victory for his team. The fight began without delay, with the main character delivering blows wreathed in flames. His opponent was well prepared, having studied his style and learned all his possible techniques. Jim, however, made an unexpected intervention in the fight, attempting to catch his opponent off guard. The battle was now a 2-on-1 affair and was growing increasingly fierce. This continued until the defender activated dozens of artifacts, creating a field of barriers and traps. The battlefield had been transformed into a chaotic and dangerous obstacle course. The protagonist attempted to navigate the course using nebulous acceleration. But even this move had been anticipated. Every step he took was expected. He therefore shifted his strategy, using a skill to transform Jim into metal. He then launched Jim with a fiery explosion, augmenting his flight with additional force. The metal body sailed over all the traps and struck its intended target. The opponent had no time to react and was knocked off his feet by the powerful impact. The hero approached him and placed the point of his sword directly at his throat. After his victory, the protagonist bound his opponent and began an interrogation, noticing an oath mark on his neck. The girl from the arena intervened, temporarily nullifying the artifact's effects. The interrogation resumed, and the hero requested his allies to turn away to avoid witnessing his next actions. He began to dance, inflicting a psychological blow on the captive. Unable to withstand the pressure, the captive agreed to reveal the truth of how everything began. He spoke of other nations where false information was also being disseminated. This was not done out of selfishness, but due to the consequences. More hunters meant more gates to the tower. The world was descending into chaos, and the balance was fracturing. The oath sign, however, reactivated, and the enemy died, his head being severed. The hero and his companion decided not to waste any more time and continued their ascent. Jim later joined Lee Sin's squad, opting to operate from a different position. Hilderus, meanwhile, scolded the hero once more, forcing him to acknowledge his mistake. He then dropped a hint that the druid was still waiting, implying there was no reason to delay. The hero revisited the zone to convey his request to the essence of the forest. He presented the seed, and the keeper, sensing his sincerity, accepted it. For the first time in a long while, he had placed his trust in someone who thought differently. In his memory, he gifted a peace zone designed for harmony and growth. He also bestowed a new title that signified a change in the hero's heart. The seeds were planted immediately, and a tree grew in an instant. They were joined by a companion who removed her helmet, surprising everyone with her true appearance. She requested to be on familiar terms, addressing the hero as princess. No matter how much he tried to deny it, the truth was clear to Lily. She had connected all the dots and deduced that the two individuals were one and the same. While she promised to maintain his secret, she did compel him to remove his mask through the power of dance. Later, as the hero posted his next video, tears welled up in his eyes. The forest ranger offered him support during this difficult moment. The recording was posted despite his emotional state, and the girl did not pass up the chance to tease him. The boy seized the opportunity to ask the forest spirit about the mysterious box. The spirit replied that one must place a precious stone inside and make a wish. He also added that he would arrange a deal with an NPC on the next floor. The hero continued his journey, moving toward a meeting with new enigmas. High above, meanwhile, the stranger received news of the newcomer's defeat. On the 36th floor, the objective was to cross a lake to reach an island. The main character accomplished this with ease, encountering no obstacles or delays. The girl, however, was left alone on the other side of the water after saving her team. The traveler continued his ascent, reaching the 39th floor and finding himself in a dark cave. To unlock the portal, 5 rare stones needed to be found. Before they could even begin their search, an unexpected event occurred. Monsters that resembled demons from the abyss materialized before them. Their leader was in need of new servants to pass his trial. They immediately engaged in battle and acquired rare stones from the first 2 adversaries. They promptly inserted the recovered materials into special slots on the portal. Believing that the decorations were dropping from the monsters, they proceeded to destroy several hundred more. Subsequent victories, however, yielded nothing. The stones no longer dropped. At that point, the demonic leader selected his new slaves. The traveler and the girl with a steely demeanor were among the chosen. In the new location, they encountered familiar allies who had also been captured. In an effort to escape, they once again utilized Jim's metal transformation. After destroying a door, they broke into the next hall, only to be confronted by the same enemy. He transported them to a deep mine, where they were put to work digging for artifacts. Other prisoners, a mix of players and characters from the world, were already laboring there. One of them warned against looking at the demons that were guarding the captives. He mentioned that he had been there for 490 days and had given up on the thought of escape. There were only 2 options: open the portal or face death. No other escape route existed. The majority of the locals had no allies or coins left to continue their journey. After seeing a demon consume a rat, the boy proposed a wager. This caught the attention of 2 NPCs who were revealed to be allies with their own secret plans. Gale and Palmerum disclosed their plan to kill the demon boss, though it had previously failed. The main character was soon summoned to see the leader who was in charge of the mine. One of his new acquaintances advised him to attack immediately, advice which he followed. Although he lost the duel, his unexpected assault did manage to strike Megalith himself. They eventually sat down to negotiate and began their discussions. The demon, upon hearing about the work disruptions, immediately went to investigate. When he returned, the conversation resumed in a much more composed manner. The traveler seized the moment to inquire about the ancient demon war. It was revealed to be a sacred conflict intended to unify the dark races. The war was structured into 5 branches, with each clan assigned a specific rival. The white demons triumphed over the red, the blue defeated the black, and the yellow finished first. Following this story, the hero received a secret quest containing an important message. The objective was to unite the former adversaries and complete their unfinished business. Achieving this, however, would require immense effort and the consent of all parties involved. Their plans were interrupted by Rick, who had stumbled upon a valuable artifact. The main character quickly concealed the stone to avoid drawing unwanted attention. A stranger approached him with a warning that the locals tended to take anything they found. After expressing his thanks, the guy offered him a candy bar and shared his idea. For the subsequent 2 days, he relentlessly attacked the boss while also searching for more stones. He meticulously planned every detail of his future escape during this time. During another confrontation, the demon once again left the hall. The traveler took advantage of this opportunity and planted explosives around the entire perimeter. Upon the enemy's return, the hero recalled the Stone of Beginnings and asked about it directly. The demon, however, simply smiled and stated that the hero would not be getting the artifact. In spite of this, the demon consented to a contract that would transfer ownership of the item upon his death. All the prisoners eventually gathered, preparing for their escape from the dungeon. Their supervisor appeared at that very moment, causing the situation to escalate. The hero triggered the explosives he had set earlier and charged forward. He rallied everyone and led them to a hall containing teleportation platforms. A section of one wall had been blown away, revealing a cache of hidden jewels behind it. They later destroyed another partition and finally reached their own people. The boy came to understand that each stone in the slab was a compression of reality itself. This was the reason the demon kept slaves. He was afraid of vanishing along with the location. As all the elements fell into place, the space itself began to deconstruct. A countdown was initiated, and everyone was instructed to head for the portal. The hero, without a moment's hesitation, turned and ran back toward the danger. At the opposite end of the hall, his allies were holding back the final enemy. He joined the fight, providing crucial support to the demon deserters. Their combined forces made a final, decisive push to destroy the tyrant. Gale, having absorbed Pomatham, engaged in a conclusive battle with his primary rival. The hero, opting for a cautious approach, instructed his friend to activate their backup plan. The evil lord, however, was victorious, and the jewel fell from the defeated Gale. The process of the zone's destruction came to an abrupt halt as space itself froze. Rick soon appeared, carrying the slab and the remaining stones. The activation of the portal resulted in the destruction of both the location and Meglit. The rewards included titles, an artifact, and a precious crystal. It was later revealed that a new guardian now presided over this level. The hero proceeded to the 40th floor, where his comrades were awaiting his arrival. The reunion was filled with expressions of gratitude, though it was short-lived. They were interrupted by a girl who ran up to them, shouting with joy. After a brief conversation, she extended an invitation to her place. After taking a shower in the villa, the hero began to inspect his new titles. One of them contained a reference to chaos, which raised his concerns. When the landlady entered, he intended to ask about it, but she declined to offer an explanation. She instead gave him a ring and some messages to be delivered to Heidi. First, however, the letter had to be located on the current floor. The hero requested that she exchange the stones for ones of equal value. After receiving a piece of the armor, he departed for the sanctuary that had been recommended to him. There, the system initiated an analysis, factoring in his path, willpower, and style of completion. The test then commenced, consisting of 6 successive stages. His first adversary was a 9th-level opponent, Dalkin. He could barely feel his opponent's strikes and dealt with him in just a few moves. The subsequent 5 stages were also cleared quickly, with no serious opposition encountered. Only the last stage remained, the final test, where his opponent was once again the demon boss he had recently defeated. The system imposed a limit on some of his power to ensure a fair fight. The battle began instantly, leaving the hero with no choice but to dodge and wait for an opening. At a critical juncture, a new piece of armor was revealed to him. This came with hidden abilities that required a special activation process. After reviewing the instructions, he invoked one of the abilities, Rainbow Reflection. The ability unleashed a powerful strike that inflicted serious damage on the enemy. Following his victory, 3 of his skills were upgraded in rank. Upon returning to the safe zone, he went to see Lilka, who was occupied with some equipment. While she was forging armor, he took a seat on the couch and opened the community forum. He was curious about recent news, checked the achievements of others, and inquired about the general situation in the tower. He ultimately became convinced that his own actions had been the catalyst for the change in events. The floor had been destroyed, history had been altered, and a familiar ally was now the new owner. To figure out how to conquer chaos and reach the 100th floor, he decided to ask for help. After paying the girl a few compliments and giving her 2 artifacts, he learned something of great importance. The essence of chaos could be located on the 60th level, but he still had to get there first. After updating the community on his progress, he advanced to the next stage of the trial. The 41st floor and the 8 that followed were designed to present an important choice that would shape his future. At the location, the hero recognized a familiar tree whose sap could disorient monsters. He also found a branch nearby, which would be useful for crafting a handle for a new weapon. He also came across a skill book that provided resistance to electrical damage. 2 types of foes stood before him, heavy buffaloes and 2-horned mustangs. He was required to choose which group to fight, but a third option presented itself. He made the decision to eliminate both squads at once and succeeded with surprising ease. The system immediately transported him to the 42nd floor. He found himself before an old building with an abandoned carriage parked beside it. A skeleton sat inside, clutching a sealed box. The skeleton disintegrated into dust the moment the hero touched the box. Inside were a key and a letter that mentioned Belstein's secret space. The letter revealed that the Count had an interest in occult sciences and artifacts. When the Inquisitors discovered this, they dispatched their pursuers after him. The Count had attempted to destroy the evidence, but appears to have run out of time. After reading the letter, he made his way to the estate, determined to uncover the truth. His objective was to bring the truth to light and claim the promised rewards. Within the estate, he discovered numerous artifacts suitable for potion crafting. An ancient coffin bearing a seal captured his attention. A demidem was interred within it. This was the same entity that had annihilated the Belstein family many years ago. The hero was faced with a choice: flee or permanently seal the magical sigil. He kicked the coffin in a fit of anger, prompting a system warning about the risk of unsealing it. He then composed himself and reinforced his defenses to prevent the evil from awakening. His next task was to brew potions, using all the ingredients he could find in the mansion. He spent the night at the location and tested his new potion on a monster at dawn. The outcome was remarkable. The monster vanished almost instantly with no time to fight back. He later decided to pour the same potion onto the coffin to amplify the demon's suffering. He was once again presented with a choice: continue his actions or leave and walk away. 15 days went by, during which he brewed living water on a daily basis. The creature eventually began to plead for more, its addiction having grown too powerful. At this point, the demon proposed a trade, water in exchange for a reward. The promised items included a ring of space and a fragment of the truth about the tower. He accepted the offer, poured out the potion, and received everything that was mentioned. A piece of history was revealed. The demon's homeworld had been destroyed. To ensure their survival, his species began to enter the human world through incarnations. A little more living water, and he resumed his story about the past. The process of migrating to another reality had only accelerated the extinction of their race. Another potential method of rescue was mentioned, but he did not have time to fulfill the contract. The moment the seal was completed, the entire area was engulfed in a brilliant light. The hero was instantly teleported to the next floor of the tower. On the new level, the hero encountered several monsters and their boss, whom he eliminated effortlessly. After collecting skill books, artifacts, and other useful items, he acquired a mandrake. This creature consumes souls with its piercing shriek, but the hero and Rick were protected from it. The frog that accompanied them quickly soothed the mandrake. The hero, after feeding her, decided to name her Totog, which led to a friendship forming between them. Upon arriving on a new floor, he was presented with a choice between two factions at war. A conflict was raging between strange birds and iron demons, and he was tasked with finding their eggs and masks. The hero came up with a plan. He sent Rick and Totog to create a diversion while he tunneled to the eggs. After gathering all the eggs, he was about to move on when the mother of the eggs appeared before him. After defeating it, he went to collect the masks, which he also acquired without any difficulty. He eventually made it to the 45th floor and found himself at the edge of the water, where he saw two NPCs. One was a great whale, a spirit of the earth, who was unable to swim. The other was a fairy who could not fly due to her wet wings. Each of them pleaded for help, and the hero was forced to decide who to save. Despite their inability to swim, they were able to communicate in a peculiar manner. The hero decided to weigh their arguments and make his choice based on that evaluation. Every negative word they spoke counted against them as he calculated their chances. In the end, the hero promised to rescue the one who offered the superior reward. Each of them offered valuable artifacts and even disclosed some secrets. The hero enlisted the help of his comrade, and together they managed to save both of them. Mobilik and Chikarin shared the story of how they came to be in the lake. They were desperately trying to reach a safe zone where they hoped to find protection. As weak NPCs, they saw the safe zone as their only hope for safety. The hero, faced with a new choice, decided to help them and received a new quest and a reward in return. As he considered how to cross the lake, he initially thought of building a boat, but he lacked the necessary materials. He then noticed the surrounding clay and decided to construct a springboard from it. The plan was to launch themselves through a storm located in the middle of the lake. They hopped onto a homemade sled, and the hero used his skills to propel them forward. They successfully flew through the clouds but fell short of reaching the island. The hero then activated his ice abilities, and they managed to reach the island with the well. He received numerous rewards and discovered that the ring was needed on the 49th floor. Mobilik and Chikarin leaped into the well, and the hero was teleported to the next floor. The hero vanquished the stone turtle, finished a hidden quest, and collected materials for his ally. A message from the community unexpectedly caught his eye. An event had been organized where fans could pose questions to the classy princess. The questions were solely about the shine and the boy, so the hero briefly explained the need for chaos points. He then received a message from a fluffy guy who was currently on the 60th floor. He spoke of the interest from newcomers without guild affiliations and the division of the community after the 70th floor. This prompted the hero to contemplate potential changes on the upcoming floors. After clearing the 47th floor, he arrived on the 48th, a desolate place devoid of any life. He was given a choice between escaping from Haida or remaining in safety for 30 days. The fairy Hades appeared instantly and restrained the hero with chains to avert a disaster. She inquired about Odelto but had no memory of him, only that she had been searching for him for a long time. The hero received a hidden quest and opted to tell her about the ring and the letter on the floor. The fairy released the chains, declared the hero her friend, and was unwilling to let him go. They set out together to find the letter, but the fairy was unable to enter the safe zone. The hero left his friend with her as a promise of his return and proceeded into the middle area. Inside, he encountered Danyam, an individual whom Haida recalled being her friend. Danyam's offer for the hero to rest at his home immediately sparked a sense of distrust. The hero questioned the price of this gesture, and in doing so, learned about Odelto, who was Danyam's son. Danyam disclosed that Haida had killed his son and requested that the hero seal the fairy away. He offered a substantial reward for assistance with this task. Danyam provided the hero with a diary that had belonged to his son. The contents spoke of the fairy's betrayal, yet something about it felt wrong to the hero. His special eyes suddenly activated, alerting him that the diary was a forgery. His eyes then guided him to the genuine diary, which contained the complete truth of the matter. Without revealing his discovery, the hero went to Danyam and formally accepted his quest. He was provided with a device specifically designed for sealing souls. The hero then went to the fairy, presenting her with the letter he had found before. A reading of the diary brought the truth to light. The explosion the fairy had caused was not of her own volition. Danyam had manipulated the fairy's emotional distress by sending her loved ones off to war. The diary also made mention of the sage John, who was supposed to have provided a way to prevent death. John's plan had been to transform Delta into a homunculus and craft an artifact for the fairy. A wooden doll suddenly appeared, containing the soul of Danyam's son. The doll requested that the hero accept a quest to find the sage on the 52nd floor. It also bestowed upon him a new high-ranking skill. The hero went back to Danyam, who devised a strategy to create a diversion for the fairy. Their plan was to use his son's portrait and personal effects to lure her into a seal. The fairy arrived for the promised meeting with her beloved and charged toward Danyam, who was concealed behind a stone. She unleashed an explosion, but the hero managed to temporarily seal her away to complete the quest. Danyam was able to withstand the blast, but the hero was now prepared for a direct confrontation. He instructed Rick to take the device and escape through the portal. Meanwhile, a battle commenced between the hero and Danyam, a fight in which the former gained the upper hand. The opponent refused to fall, even after taking powerful hits. The true fight then began, with both combatants activating their most formidable skills. The hero was just a single step from victory when his opponent's mental state began to crumble. Elian defeated his adversary by shattering a concealed bottle of horrors over his head. This final act caused Danyam's mind to break, and he began to plead for forgiveness. In time, he became completely subservient to the tower's will. The hero proceeded to the 49th floor, where a series of calculations awaited, taking every one of his choices into account. As a consequence, he was granted a new title, and his eyes informed him of a new type of chaos that had taken hold of him. This was a novel, unrecognized form of chaos, and he was immediately transported to the 50th floor. He located Lilka there, and they retreated to an alley where the hero handed over all the materials. Parting with Totog proved difficult, as the creature was unwilling to accept a new owner. The hero's tears were interrupted by a notification about a potential contract with Lilka, who was eager to sign. The hero first demanded his reward for the quest, and then inquired about the chaos creature. Lilka explained with some reluctance that it signaled the world's entry into a period of destruction. New portals, spawning more powerful monsters, would now begin to appear in the hero's world. This event marked the beginning of the end, and all the guilds had already devised methods to circumvent this transition. The larger guilds were restricting the number of people who could ascend, but the hero's actions had expedited the world's destruction. A majority of the people had already exited the tower, leaving behind only the strongest who continued the struggle. The number of people able to enter the tower would now steadily decrease until it was completely empty. Lilka decided to revisit the subject of the contract and presented the completed document to the hero. He chose to review it thoroughly first, discovering her wish for him to become her successor. The hero was not fundamentally opposed to the idea, given his substantial coin reserves. Just as he was about to begin discussions, something peculiar occurred. The world around him transformed, and a warning notification materialized before him. The message forbade the disclosure of any information regarding his infinite coins. Any breach would place him and his loved ones in grave danger. He therefore signed the contract immediately, though he was taken aback by Lilka's signature. It resembled a small handprint, which belonged to Lilka. She then changed into a little girl, explaining that this was her actual form. It turned out she had been using a working uniform because her smaller form would not have been taken seriously. Lilka inquired about the friendly match that was scheduled to be held on the 50th floor. This was an event where servers from different nations were merged, and participants were chosen at random. Players possessing the highest ranks were automatically selected as participants. The hero made his way to the arena and entered the waiting room, where he encountered Jim, Lily, and Sabina. After exchanging greetings, Lily proposed a competition for points, even though they were all on the same team. The stages of the competition involved a variety of tasks, the first of which was fight prediction. In this stage, participants were required to predict the winner of a given match. The hero emerged victorious in this stage, after which Lily engaged in combat with a monster. She defeated it by a margin of just 2 strokes, securing first place with a perfect score. The competition moved on, and in the subsequent battle, the protagonist achieved victory with identical results. Since the outcomes from several countries were tied, an additional match was arranged. He and 2 new guild members found themselves meeting there. During the fight, the hero utilized his newly crafted artifacts, potions, and weapons. This advantage allowed him to defeat both of his opponents and secure a victory for his country. Following the battle, he offered healing potions to his adversaries before bidding farewell to his friends. Lilka also said her goodbyes, and he then proceeded to the 51st floor, where the ordeal of death commenced. The initial trial was drowning, a challenge he had to endure for an entire month. The hero used a mask designed for underwater breathing, while his companion Rick towed him along. The journey to the surface proved to be fraught with danger, as they had to overcome various monsters. They then constructed a raft and began to paddle toward land. They encountered shipwrecks along their route, as well as a man pleading for help. The hero offered him a hand, but the man suddenly produced a weapon. A mob of similar individuals appeared at that moment, intent on robbing them. The protagonist quickly dispatched them and resumed his journey. They eventually came upon the ship of the robber captain. When the captain learned that his squad had been wiped out, he noticed the main character approaching. The hero used force to compel the prisoner to reveal information about a squad of hired assassins. This squad eliminated the strongest opponents on behalf of one of the guilds. In his attempt to learn more, he received information regarding the Kraken hunt. He then collected all the spoils and set out for the surface of the ocean. There he spotted guild members already locked in combat with the sea monster. For a more precise attack, the hero dove into the water and severed 2 of the Kraken's tentacles. This action immobilized the creature, and he then ordered the guild members to create a diversion. While the others kept the enemies occupied, he made his way to the portal leading to the next level. After collecting his reward, he immediately ascended to the 52nd floor. He was greeted there by a small demon who would serve as his guide to the sage. This was the same wise John who could offer assistance with Hida and Odelto. When asked about any prior visitors, the old man recalled a group from a decade ago. The hero recognized their names as the future founders of the great guilds. It was this group that had heard the sage's prophecy about chaos and the end of the world. That was the moment they decided to implement a fraudulent progression system. This system enabled their own rise but condemned others to certain death. The hero resolved to learn more about the tower's nature. The old man explained that its appearance is tied to the arrival of chaos. When the edge of a world collapses, the tower shatters it and initiates a new cycle. While its arrival may seem like the end, that is not the case. The tower was designed to restore balance by quarantining chaos within its system. The only method to halt the destruction is to gather the chaos and clear all 100 floors. This led the hero to the conclusion that developing new, talented fighters was essential. The pioneers, however, had done the opposite, eliminating the weaker individuals to assert their own dominance. This injustice fueled his anger, but John reassured him that other strong individuals did exist. Some of them had perished because they had encountered creatures even more powerful than themselves. The sage's team should have followed his advice, but they succumbed to greed. Their era had ended, making way for a new path to emerge. John suddenly addressed the hero, calling him by all his names, even referring to him as a scoundrel. The hero was stunned to see that the sage had activated the same kind of eyes as his own. Everything suddenly made sense, and the reason for the sage's sudden address became clear. The old man asked for his help, specifically for a part of the homunculus, the core for Odelto. Resurrection was impossible without it, but then the crystal came to mind. Elian immediately gave it to John and then went for a walk. He soon heard a scream and witnessed a boy being attacked. The assailants fled as soon as they recognized his mask. The young man explained that the attackers were murderers posing as collectors. They parted ways after a brief conversation, and the main character continued his journey. He posted a warning about the killers in the community. He also found out that the bald-headed individual was in the 94th unit of his country. His thoughts were cut short by the news of Odelto's successful revival. The hero immediately went to them, where he received thanks and a reward. He then ascended to a new floor, where he was tasked with surviving for 1 month. There he chanced upon a giant beast, the Lord of the Cold. A single blow was enough to destroy the monster. A stranger named Adam, who was passing by, witnessed this event. He immediately began to gather the creature's remains and other trophies. He then invited the guest to a nearby building. Inside, Adam was struck by a stern-looking man who identified himself as Heglik. He gave orders to prepare the prey and appeared to be a teacher. He had once been Adam's instructor in all things, including cooking. This connection inspired the young man to become his disciple. After some consideration, the main character decided to try his hand at this as well. He requested to be taught the fundamentals of cooking. Heglich was initially unable to transfer the skill, even after a relaxing message. His knowledge was too precious to be purchased and could only be transmitted under specific circumstances. The transfer was only possible once the student's rank surpassed the S level. The acquired skill would then only be level C, but it would still be a unique ability. Adam had achieved this level through his sheer determination. Upon learning this, Heglich decided to give the guest a small test. The main character passed all the tests with flying colors, which greatly impressed the old master. Adam offered his assistance, as he knew how to bribe Heglich. During their lunch, Elian offered the teacher a glass of fine wine. This gesture worked, and Heglich consented to pass on his culinary knowledge. In return, the guest promised to invite a catering company to the training sessions. A week later, the hero attempted to cook a dish by himself for the first time. The result was lethal. The tasting session ended with his own death. He did not give up after his resurrection and immediately began cooking again. His culinary creations became poisonous weapons, which he used to feed his enemies and destroy them from within. He simultaneously asked his friends in the community to hunt down members of the murder squad. He was soon invited to his favorite takeout buffet, where he held VIP status. Representatives from all races were employed there, creating a diverse menu of cultural dishes. After the meal, the manager reminded him of the upcoming party and the invitation he had previously been given. The event was to be kept secret, with no one to be told about it. Adam, having overheard the conversation, expressed a strong desire to go with him. The manager initially declined, but eventually permitted both of them to attend. As it was time to leave, Heglich gave Elian a cookbook and a medal. He also tasked Adam with escorting the new student to the portal. Adam was revealed to be the only person who knew the precise path and the method for opening the passage. During their journey, the protagonist learned that Adam had been on this level for more than a decade. They discussed the tower and the years Adam had spent within it. For a brief moment, Elian felt a flicker of doubt and asked a few questions to clarify things. The answers he received validated his companion's story, and his doubts vanished. The travelers soon arrived at the Crystal of Eternal Frost. A monster was guarding it, one that Elian intended to destroy. His attention, however, was drawn to the murderers who were throwing others to the monster to be killed. They decided to split up. One would attack the killers, while the other would engage the guard. Working together, they successfully eliminated all their enemies and rescued the victims. As they approached the portal, the friends realized they would be sent to different locations. They decided to make arrangements for a future meeting. Adam suggested they connect through the community, but then he learned something new. It was there he first heard of the classy Princesse, Elian's secret online persona. The main character was forced to invent an explanation on the spot. He claimed his account had been banned, making the community an unviable option. He then proposed an alternative plan, to meet near the additional quest areas. On the new floor, Elian discovered that the store was closed. The system, however, permitted the robbing of other participants. He immediately made his way to the side quest area without any hesitation. He was greeted there by a partially sealed boss named Velsat. The boss attempted to share his story, but Elian repeatedly interrupted him. To quiet the boss, the hero tossed him a chocolate bar. His special eyes, however, informed him that the boss was suffering from starvation. So if you feed him, you can gain his recognition. Velzak confessed his desire to lift the curse, but knew that even after its destruction, he would still perish. The only way was to fill the void in his stomach and thus mitigate the curse's effects. Elian got to work immediately, trying to devise a suitable solution. He first attempted to use plain water, but this proved ineffective. He then tried clay, but that also failed to help. Their search was cut short by Adam, who arrived an hour before the feast was set to begin. He decided to prepare something edible and began cooking on the spot. Velzat, in his suffering, pleaded for food, but time had run out. The heroes were instantly teleported to the location of the banquet. The killers, who had been observing them from a distance, were already setting a trap. They knew the heroes would have to return and were planning to seize that opportunity. Adam, meanwhile, was marveling at the dishes on display at the banquet. Elian discreetly observed the guests, noticing several NPCs among them. He was keen to establish contact with them and forge new alliances. A familiar man suddenly appeared, whom Elian did not recognize at first. It was Fluffy, who immediately issued a warning about the dangerous NPCs. A pirate-like man served as an example, as he began to taunt Adam. He ridiculed his attire, his cleanliness, and even implied that he was unworthy. It was not uncommon, however, for some hunters to enjoy provoking others. One of the guests made a show of pouring liquid on the NPC's head. The pirate moved to strike, but his motion was stopped in an instant. A hunter had seized his arm, halting the attack. Elian's eyes supplied the stranger's name, Allison. He removed his mask and greeted Adam as if they were old acquaintances. They struck up a conversation, and Adam introduced Elian, who made an effort to be amicable. Allison, however, was affiliated with one of the guilds and therefore had grievances with Elian. The protagonist had destroyed several newcomers in the past, creating a sense of hostility. The atmosphere grew tense, but Allison suddenly burst out laughing, completely changing his demeanor. The manager announced them as Heglick's own students, a declaration that shocked everyone present. No one believed it until the cafeteria director appeared, intrigued by what he had heard. Upon overhearing the conversation, he made a proposal that left the guests stunned. Elian and Adam were tasked with preparing a festive dinner for all the attendees. Standing at the stove, Elian proposed creating dishes that would pair well with alcohol. The idea was met with universal approval, and they immediately set to work. In the span of an hour, they managed to prepare 70 different dishes. Each dish was accompanied by a rare alcoholic drink. The guests were astounded by the taste and aroma of the food. While the principal delivered his speech, Rick's rank advanced to B. Elian earned a new title and the respect of the guests at the banquet. Both NPCs and hunters paid him their respects and thanked him for the meal. Fluffy, deeply moved, gifted the main character his favorite t-shirt. As the guests began to leave, the director made a significant announcement. Henceforth, the buffet pledged its full support to Elian and his friends. The director spoke of the many powerful groups at the tower's highest levels. These included the Alliance of Arenas, the Hidden Garden, the Kingdom of Flowers and Birds, and the Fractal Park. The most influential among them, however, was considered to be the Kuldane Kitchen, the very same takeaway buffet. This organization could serve as a powerful ally if a mutually beneficial partnership could be established. Adam suggested gaining experience by working as a cook in the cafeteria. Elian agreed to keep them supplied with ingredients, spices, and rare beverages. This agreement formed the foundation of their profitable collaboration with the Kuldane Kitchen. Both received contracts and special bracelets for communication and sharing their discoveries. Elian then teleported upstairs to Velsat, eager to try cooking something new. His special eyes noted the large number of traps and artifacts strewn about the area. The killers who owned those traps were lying in wait nearby, ready to attack. After a brief exchange, they triggered all their traps. None of the traps, however, were able to inflict any harm on the main character. Before the battle began, Elian and Rick performed a dance by the fire. This only served to enrage the killers, who promptly launched their offensive. One of their strikes resulted in a powerful explosion that was visible from a great distance. The explosion was spotted by Lily, who was also on that floor. She was in the process of eliminating other assassins when she noticed the blast. The girl immediately headed toward the location to provide aid to Elian. Elian was fighting back with desperation, but the number of enemies continued to grow. As another attack came dangerously close, he barely managed to dodge, thinking it was the end. The air was suddenly filled with smoke as someone deployed smoke bombs. Lily appeared amidst the chaos and instantly joined the fight. With her assistance, the murderers were defeated and the area became safer. Once things had calmed down, Elian thanked her for the rescue and inquired about the gorge. He was curious about who controlled the region and was attacking others. Lily explained that she and her satellite had already neutralized that threat. This raised even more questions for Elian, but he didn't have a chance to voice them. Meow Punch suddenly appeared and addressed him by his real name. The main character was surprised, and Lily reassured him that she had not revealed his identity to anyone. With no other option, Elian removed his mask, showing his face. Lisna Mypope did the same, revealing her own face. Meow Punch resisted for a long time but was ultimately forced to remove her mask. Beneath it was Clark, the renowned singer from the poster on the t-shirt. This was the same t-shirt that Fluffy had once given him, a fact that Elian remembered well. Following a short conversation, Elian sold several of his found artifacts to Clark. He and Lily then set off for Velsat, hoping to earn his approval. Lily was the first to attempt to sate the monster's hunger, but her efforts were unsuccessful. Clark tried using algae that expands to gigantic sizes in water, but this also proved futile. The main character then began to prepare a dish, to which he added a magic potion. The aroma captured everyone's attention, and all were eager to try the unusual food. Elian warned his friends that eating it would be dangerous, but not everyone heeded his warning. After the first bite, the guests began to contort from the repulsive taste. The potion imbued the dish with an effect that nearly shattered the willpower of those who ate it. When this plan failed, the hero poured the potion directly into Velsat's mouth. His hunger began to recede and the curse's power waned, gradually fading away. As a reward, Elian received rare resources, a key, and a new portal. He and his friends decided to create a more potent potion for future use. Velsat, unwilling to endure the taste again, opened the portal for the others. Elian then ascended the next 3 floors with no effort. On the 58th floor, he faced a choice: live in that dreadful place for a month or reach the cradle of Big Cat. Within minutes, he was assaulted by mini-cats, the same creatures that had piqued Lilka's interest. After dispatching several attackers, he located Big Cat in the entrance to Framberg, where a vast array of items were created. Despite the distance, Big Cat began to assail him with powerful strikes. The protagonist dodged the attacks and quickly made his way to the city's entrance. The pass granted him entry, though the dwarves' initial reception was hostile. Their attitude changed upon seeing the golden map, and they escorted him deeper into the settlement. He was offered a drink of living water there, unaware that it had been diluted. Elian detected the substitution and requested a meeting with a representative of the city. He proposed a trade, his knowledge of boiling living water in exchange for something of value. A representative named Behiltan took note of his armor. He confessed to being the owner of another piece from the same set. Elian expressed his desire to purchase it, but the city's governor also had an interest in it. Their discussion was abruptly interrupted by the blare of sirens, signaling danger. A fog of plague was approaching from the direction of an egg belonging to a creature long thought to be extinct. Elian asked Behilton to guide him to the source of the threat. He maintained the team's condition with potions as they drew closer to the egg. Upon arriving at the location, the team made an attempt to crack the shell on their own. They were unsuccessful, so Elian ordered everyone to retreat and take Rick with them. He, in turn, charged directly into the core of the enigmatic egg without a moment of hesitation.